Friends, hello. March 10th, 2024, Virtual Strangers episode 208 is live. I am your host, Wes. With me, as always, is my good friend, Roots. Roots, how are you doing on this fine Sunday afternoon?
I'm doing amazing. Actually, I was just watching that trailer and I guess trailer, whatever you want, intro, just reliving some of those moments. And it made me think about, like, I've been really loving the hell out of Helldivers 2, right? And
Right?
it's an amazing game, but like, I've never been to those planets. I've never, like, been there. Like, half of
Right.
those experiences or more of them, I've been to those places. I have a memory of being there, and it just reminds me of what the biggest difference between VR and just every other kind of gaming you can do, right? Because you can have amazing gameplay, but are you actually feeling like you're on that planet? And I really, 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 please God, hope someday Helldivers 2 will let me be on the planet, because it is an amazing game. But I just was thinking all that while I was watching that amazing intro.
That's the dream, right? That's why we're doing this, is so that maybe we continue to grow to the point where one day most, if not all, games have a VR mode, right? Because you're right. I loved playing Returnal. It was one of my favorite games, but when I think back to my memories of playing Returnal, it's memories of me sitting in front of the screen like I am right now. But when I think back to playing Red Matter 2 or Stormland, it's memories of being on alien planets, flying through the air, and fighting for my life. So you're right. That's the dream, and that's why we're here doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Roy Schwartz is asking where MASH is, and I guess I'm just redundantly repeating myself because I just typed it. But he's out of town right now, and Mouse as early as F. And I kind of like this to think this is like the new norm, because if it was
Yeah.
for like a normal Sunday, what we're shooting for, it would have even been earlier, right? To like not be so late. We already have a late show, and like, we just said on the other show, it's kind of too late sometimes as it is, right? So we kind of want to go into
Right.
midday anyway.
Yeah. The Sunday show was always supposed to be like early afternoon or late afternoon. We just kind of, as the last year went along and we got busier and busier, we found it more and more difficult to go early, and different things would happen and push us later. For what it's worth, had we gone on later today, Mash might actually would have been here. He wanted
Oh,
to be here, but he is right now as we speak. He is at a Meta sponsored event in
ooh,
Austin, Texas,
how cool.
because he thinks he's better than us.
This man legitimately thinks that he is better than us.
Mash. He is a little bit better at it. He's there. How cool though,
Right.
right? A Meta sponsored event, Meta ambassador. Like, I was thinking about this the other day, Wes. Where's our ambassadorship? Although I don't know that I want it.
Dude, I'm not going to drop names, right? But as part of my job the other day, I was looking into a certain influencer, content creator, and it's a guy that's fairly well known, behind the scenes by industry people. But I never really looked at his platforms and his channels before. This guy is a Meta ambassador. He is a Meta sponsored creator. I went to his YouTube page, and he has about 3K subs. His videos average, on average, about 50 views
Hmm.
or so. And I was just like,
We
what
get
the hell, man?
couple more views on our. I like to say we
Yeah,
help sell games, or, well, I don't want to say destroy them, but they kind of destroy themselves. But I try not to trying to be less negative, but like, I'm also at the same time trying to, like, cut to the chase in a lot of the shit. But yeah, no, that's crazy. It just makes you wonder
yeah.
what that litmus test is, or whatever, or maybe we just flew under the
It's like,
radar. And then part of me,
it's
like,
like,
feels like
y-
maybe it's a good thing, because even if, because
yeah,
GT's a Meta ambassador, so is Todd and Mash, and people would say, oh, like, that's going to influence your opinion. I don't
yeah,
think those people's opinions are influenced at all. And so, like, I know it wouldn't be a conflict, but in some people's eyes, immediately it's a
right,
conflict. And
right.
I don't know. I don't know if it's worth the hassle. What do you get from being this ambassador? My question.
Yeah, it's and by the way, congratulations to Eric and Todd for
For
landing that.
real.
It is a
They deserve it.
pretty big deal. I think it just goes to speak to kind of our collective uh, growing stature in the VR industry. Impact I'm talking about, and our circle, our people.
Hmm.
All of our friends that we do shows with on YouTube and work with behind the scenes, we're all collectively growing to become something. And I absolutely think Eric and Todd's, uh, entry into the Meta Ambassador program is a reflection of the work that we've been doing, even outside of content creation. So I know how hard that guy works, and I know that he must be very proud
He
of
should
that.
be.
So
He never
congrats to
stops
them.
working. You never stop.
Yeah.
Like some of the people that I hang around with, I feel like a slacker because people are like working so hard in this industry, right? And I come and I do what I'm doing because I'm not doing it for a job as well. And so like I'm just doing it to do it, right? So I respect what all of you are doing. So
Yeah, but what you're saying is absolutely right. In the eyes of some people, that's a black mark. You know, there are perks that come with it. You get access to the games early and access to information early. Every now and then they'll fly you to California and let you participate in something cool.
that would be cool, right?
Yeah,
On their dime,
yeah,
I'll take that every day.
yeah, for sure.
So
But then on the other hand, there are certain developers and there are certain gamers out there that look at that as like a black mark. Like you can't do like a fair review after you receive things like that from Meta. You're going to treat them favorably, whether you mean to or not. And I can say through my experience, I know quite a few of these Meta ambassadors, and some of them that's absolutely true. And then there are others that have morals and integrity
mm.
and go out of their way to make sure that they're not using any bias, at least in so much as they can control it.
They may even be a little bit more critical because sometimes that can happen, right? Like you're a little bit more critical to offset what people would think. And no, I think you're exactly right. It's proven to me just from the people that I know, like GT and such, Paradise Decay, that you have the ability to not, like be this gushing fan of their games if you don't want to be, right? They're not pressuring you, and I think you're right. It's a self inflicted thing. So
So where is our ambassadorship? That's a good question. To some extent, I feel like it's not what you do, but who you know, or maybe a little bit of both. Uh, with regard to this, certainly that's the case for some of them that were chosen. To be honest, I don't know if we would accept it or not. We very well could and probably would, but I don't know that. There's obviously a debate to be had there. Um, but I don't know. I've thought about this before. Like, is it the mom jokes? It can't be the mom jokes. I mean, if they've watched Eric's show, like it's 5 to 1. Like we do one or two a show over here, and those guys just wear it the fuck out.
everything
Um,
everything that we said the other day on the show about tattoos and everything else, jokingly blue beards, right? That applies to the my
uh,
moms and stuff. Like every
yeah,
it's not your yesterday's person's audience. Yes, there's the occasional person like that one person several years ago that was like, "Hey guys, can you like guys hold it down on these type of jokes?
yeah.
My kid's
We
around."
can't.
Like, well, I get that. Like, I don't want your kid to be around. Well, how about you watch it when your kid's not around? Like it's not our.
Right.
I'm not. If of all the things I'm not going to censor myself for, that is not going to happen. So I'll censor my. I try to censor myself more, just because like I shouldn't be so as profane verbally for God, but that's just sometimes it just comes out. So
And I do have a question too. So, like, if Todd and Eric are Meta ambassadors, why isn't Dee a Meta ambassador? I thought Dee was on that show too. Is she not?
yeah, that's a thing too. I feel like and I've been saying that to her. I think they need to bring back that dynamic a little bit more. Because yeah, you know. I think if we were to be a meta ambassador, we would be like, hey, do your part. She's got
Yeah.
access to our library, right? So, um,
He's an ambassador. Spry Guy would be an ambassador. Probably Geisen, our moderator in chief, and then my wife. Everybody, we'd all be ambassadors together. How about that?
yeah, let's do it. There you
But
go, Oculus. That's our litmus. You want us in there. And Spry Guy says D is better than Todd and Eric. I agree, 100%.
at the same time, we do criticize standalone VR awful lot over here. So
True.
maybe that has a little something to do with it. Like we're not meta shields. We're the farthest thing from it. Now we do give credit where it's due, and often speak about what a mess the VR industry would probably be today if it weren't for the Meta Quest giving developers a place to sell games. Um, but with that said, we as often as we talk about that side of it, probably we talk 5 times as much about how standalone gaming has been holding back a true good AAA VR gaming for a few years now since the Quest era kind of came into being. So um, I don't know. When I think about why things like this don't get offered to us or why we don't get nominated for some of these awards, I think that it's probably because we don't play the game, right? Like a lot of these channels are striving for things that we just aren't. We're just showing up here to promote VR and have a good time. We're not trying to be like successful influencers or whatever. So I think if we played the game and played ball a little bit more, we would probably see some of this stuff rolling our way.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Roots goes off on how most developers suck
Right.
and they should like just stop making games. And sometimes I never watch back content, but sometimes I think back to some of the things and I think, maybe that was a little harsh. And then I get into some of these games and I'm like, nah. I think there are a lot of developers, and I was kind of watching Asmongold made a video recently and was talking about the gaming thing in general, and he was kind of saying how Unreal Engine 5 is amazing, and it's also kind of a detriment in a sense because it's made it to where everybody can make games, which is amazing, and it's also made it to where everybody can make games, which there's a lot of people
Yeah.
that shouldn't be making games, and a lot of assets are just lazily being used, downloaded, just the legitimate ones. You get games like AAA games like Starfield that clearly are just it's just a weird place to be in. And so hopefully we'll start to see some of the wasted stuff start fading away. Because I do think it kind of detracts from all gaming in general. A lot of these really, really poorly made games that are just cash grabs, just it kind of makes us feel like we're getting screwed all the time.
Well, here's how we're going to do our part with that. We've obviously been doing our part to uh, push VR into the mainstream consciousness for almost 5 years now. I think it is 5 years.
Oh
We've
wow.
done five. We've done. I've been saying 5 years because we've done 5 of our year-end shows, but I think our actual 5th anniversary is coming up in a few days. Um, but yeah, I think that at the same time that we've kind of been doing our part for this last 5 years to push it out there into the mainstream consciousness, now we're going to start doing our part to kind of kill off that section of the library that really holds us back, and we're just not going to cover those games anymore. Um, Case in point, today's show. Um, so I started off doing the show notes today, like I often do, by just looking at all the news and throwing it all on the cutting room floor, and then we'll pick from that what our headlines are going to be. Uh, but after I went through all the websites and put all the news in this week, I saw nothing that I wanted to talk about. Like it was just a bunch of indie stuff that I don't want to play. I mean, the best thing on the whole list was Wallace and Gromit coming to Walkabout Mini Golf, which is kind of cool. But we've talked Walkabout Mini Golf to death at this point.
Yeah, it's an
So I
amazing
didn't. I
game.
knew,
Everybody knows about
yeah,
it. No,
yeah, yeah.
you know?
So what do you do then if you have a bunch of news you don't want to cover? Well, we're not covering stuff from VR news sites this week in headlines. we're making our own headlines this week, and I put my detective hat on. I went out there into the VR internet, and I found some cool stuff for us to talk about that the VR news sites aren't talking about. And if only I had more time, I would have written articles about all this stuff. But I only have so many hours in the day. But I feel like we have one of our better shows today, Roots, because we didn't just accept what's out there and instead went and found some topics that we want to talk about.
Yeah, that's what I was saying to you before the show. And that's one of the beauties of having an actual editor writer, doing this stuff, which I guess I didn't say that specifically. But you're like, a lot of people are just going to go and they're going to see, okay, what is everybody else talking about that interests me? And Wes looks at what everyone else is talking about and looks and sees that it's all bullshit. It's like, well, what can I find that I want people to know, right? Like, and like you said, if you had more time, you would have even written the articles. You know what I mean? Like, so at some point, that's an awesome thing to place to be. So yeah, I think it's awesome.
Before it gets by, Thundercat TGC with the 4.99 quid, some super credits for the cause. Thank you, Thundercat, for the support. Thanks for being here. Thanks to everyone for being here while I'm at it. I really appreciate everyone turning out for us today. What's up, D? I see D in the chat. So yeah, we've got a good show today. We're gonna talk about some well-known titles. We're gonna talk about some not so well-known titles. We're gonna exclusively reveal a title that no one's talked about yet because the press release is going out on it tomorrow. So we're gonna read through that press release here early today. Thanks to our friends who will shout out when the time comes. Um, but I noticed something, Roots, that like I don't know. Normally our subscriber count grows every week. We're down 2 this week, bro, and I made me wonder why are we not only not growing, but we obviously turned a few people back last week, and I was trying to think about what we could have said or done, and it occurred to me that maybe some people might not have liked our assessment of the games industry as a whole, and maybe they didn't like the idea that that the way things are trending, that exclusivity may be a thing of the past, and eventually consoles and PCs themselves may be a thing of the past. But we were just kind of working through our own logic and what made sense to us. But as I was looking through the news stories this week, I actually saw a few that kind of supported what we were saying last week, and I thought we'd take a quick look at those. First of all, we have the former Xbox boss believes serious questions are being asked about the future of consoles. So this is basically an article where this guy that used to run Xbox said basically what we said last week. Like as cloud technology becomes more of a thing and these subscription games as a service becomes more of a thing, people aren't going to need these boxes anymore. That's just the way that technology works. And here's proof positive that we're not alone in this belief.
Why would that irritate people? Isn't that weird that like they're like, no man, we got to have our exclusivity, our boxes, or even just the fact that we're just theorizing, like you said, is not thus saith Roots and Wes,
Right.
So I don't know. That's so weird.
We're not loyal enough to PlayStation, bro.
Yeah, well, you know what? I love PlayStation. I just
I do
want
too.
I bet I'm more loyal to games in general. I don't care what platform I play something on, right? And
That's
so,
the thing.
it's as long as I get to play really good games, that's what I want.
So I'm loyal to PlayStation. PlayStation is my favorite and has been since PlayStation 1. But the reason for that is the games.
Right.
It's the games. It's not because of the box. It's
And the
not because of the
controllers.
brand.
I'll tell you
The
what, I was
controllers are
just
pretty sweet.
just talking to a customer yesterday or a couple days ago in an apartment, and and we were discussing how Xbox was pretty much dying. That they even Phil Spencer came out and he said he had one, and he was talking about we were talking about how good the PlayStation is, the 5, and it's like the PlayStation 5 did new things in several different ways,
Yeah.
like the load speeds, everything, and Xbox just put out another box. And so, if anything, come back, Sony people. I'm raving about PlayStation 5 again. So it is an amazing console. So
Um, Paradise Decay says if they get rid of the console, then no PlayStation VR3. Why? Why can't PlayStation VR3 be a cloud device or a standalone?
right,
Like it absolutely could. I mean, PlayStation Vita didn't connect up. I mean, I guess it technically did connect up to PlayStation 3, but or 4, but it was a standalone, right? But it was still PlayStation, right? Um, we can have PlayStation products that aren't specifically tied to a console. And let me be clear, PlayStation VR3 probably will be tied to PlayStation 6. When Roots and I say that consoles are eventually going to be a thing of
it's
the
not
past,
tomorrow.
we're talking about maybe there won't be a 7 or an 8 generation PlayStation, right? Not not anytime soon.
I think the
Um,
writing's on the wall in so many ways. Not only by
well,
the
we
way the
see it.
CEOs are acting, the way that the sales probably aren't there as much, and they I think with COVID and everything with that went on and everybody being stuck at home, they got a lot of numbers that they may not have gotten because everybody was forced just to do everything that they were doing at home. And so maybe they realized, hey, these consoles aren't the way. And if you're going into a cloud based system like a metaverse, which, like I've said before, Davos and all the world leaders are pushing for, and you don't when Apple knows what Sony's doing and Sony knows what Apple's doing before things go out because of all the, you know, I don't want to say spies or just there's so much going on in the behind the scenes that we have as consumers have no idea, right? So we don't do you not think that if this is coming down the road, all these big companies, they know and they're starting to pivot and they're changing the course and maybe it's not what we want. I think it's really not going to matter, but I think we're entering a different phase
So PD says people still complain about the lag with cloud gaming.
today.
Yeah, but today, right? 20 years ago, we couldn't have. Most people wouldn't have purchased digital games because the download speeds were too slow. You know what I'm saying? Technology changes quickly over time, and there's lag with cloud-based gaming today. That doesn't mean there's going to be lag with cloud-based gaming in 10 years, 15 years, right?
Right.
So
And
that's all we're saying is in the extreme future, like people aren't going to need these boxes to play games locally anymore. They're going to just connect to the game in the air, and it's going to be amazing.
my question to people is what do they think that Elon Musk has been shooting all these satellites into I mean at crazy speeds and alarming paces for the last several years, right? It's not just I mean there's several reasons. I believe one of them is creating a complete net around the world for 5G, and it's gonna be something that we'll probably marvel at 5 years from now how fast things are, and we'll probably be everything will starting to go to cloud, and then it won't matter how powerful your meta headset today will probably be powerful enough to run anything, uh, but of course a lot of that's theories and conjecture. So
Kill Artist, the Dreamweaver Game Cat says Sony has always stated that wireless is worst. They have always had in mind, so it will be their focus, if not on the next VR tech, but in the near future, I believe. Yeah, yeah, exactly. They're going to go where the technology goes, right? Here's the thing, too. Um, Sony just signed a deal, like in the past year or two, a pretty major deal with the leader in cloud technology because theirs isn't good enough. And the leader in cloud technology just so happens to be Microsoft. So, what do you think about that? Um, Pretty soon, the owners of Xbox are going to be hosting Sony's cloud tech. It's pretty wild to think about.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Um, anyway, I do kind of miss. I am a little bit worried about the idea of the platform holders integrating and bringing about an into exclusivity, as the next story kind of indicates. Former PlayStation executive calls exclusivity the Achilles heel of blockbuster games, and I'm not so sure that I agree with this, but this seems to be maybe a thought that's becoming more prevalent among the big uh, the big conglomerate game platforms, as we've seen recently with Microsoft doing deals to bring their stuff to Sony platforms, and then we've seen recently with Sony doing deals to bring stuff to PC. Um, Exclusivity seems to be on the way out, and most consumers are probably going to go yay, because Xbox gamers are tired of being left out and not playing Sony exclusives, and Sony gamers don't have to worry about not being able to play Call of Duty in the future. Um, Here's my worry with this, Roots, and it's something that we've always said. The exclusivity is what brings about major funding to make AAA games. Like, we get more big blockbuster games funded because they can be exclusive and draw people into a certain box or platform. And if these boxes and platforms start to go away and everyone migrates on the PC or migrates into the cloud, there's going to be less incentive for the Sonys and the Microsofts out there to invest in big games. Because they don't have to sell hardware anymore. They're just making another game like any other big game studio, like Capcom or Konami would. Um, so that worries me a little bit. Although most people, I think, are going to come down on the side of breaking down the exclusivity
I think
walls.
it could be a good thing. As you look at games like Ubisoft just put out that shit uh, sailing game. I can't remember what the name of it is. It's just so bad, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars
Yeah,
wasted.
Skull and
Yeah, Skull
Bones.
and Bones. There's a trend going on with a lot of these AAA studios, and what AAA means is starting to not mean much anymore. Like spending all that money and then having this dog shit game to show for it. Like I kind of feel like things are about to change in that way as well. And they kind of need to. Like maybe they don't need to spend that much money on it. Maybe there's better ways. Maybe they can all come together and say, "Hey, look, we each of us are going to chip in 100 million or who knows." There's got to be the bottom line is people love good games. And so there's still going to be the incentive to make good games. And maybe this is what we need because clearly something's fucked, man. Like we've gotten to a point now where like we all kind of joke about it and we're like whistling walking past the grave, but like the gaming in general across the board is there's so much crap and so many games that fake what they're going to be and then they come out and it's dog shit and or it's broken and it ruins it for everybody in so many different ways. So hopefully this is actually a positive change, but you're right, it could also um, it could maybe dry things up in a different way. So yeah,
Yeah,
quadruple
the
A,
trend.
my ass. That's so fucking funny, man. Of all the things, because that game was so bad, that was like the exclamation mark on the thing that was like screwed them even worse. They came out and like you.
Yeah,
This is the thing. You want to your game is Elden Ring, and you're coming out. Say that. You know what I mean? You can say that about Elden Ring. And when they came out, if From Studios came out and said, we're releasing the first quadruple A game, and it came out, people would have said, fucking A, man. This is quadruple A. Baldur's Gate 3, same thing, right? Vertigo 2. There's certain games in the VR industry that do the same thing. They just come out and they're amazing. And you have the industries like Wanderer making it even better a year later. So I just hope that becomes the norm and we kind of see some of these, even the bigger studios just fail. If Ubisoft, I kind of feel like Ubisoft disappearing would be a good thing Get the fuck out of here. You're not doing VR? Oh my God, thank you. Thank you so much. Oh.
Yeah, I'm not willing to go that far. Ubisoft has more than any other AAA gaming company. Ubisoft has supported
They
VR.
have,
Now
but
all of
they've
their top.
also hurt them a lot. A lot of these AAA games, as they've came out, people laugh at them, right? Like it's not doing us any favors if they support it and they put out a shitty game. Support it and put out an amazing game, and then I'll be like, man, I'm so glad. And don't get me wrong, Assassin's Creed is good, but imagine if they, instead of releasing Assassin's Creed, they had released Assassin's Creed Black Flag in VR. They could have done that because that game's old enough, and they could have put the full game in. And that game, there's like Skull and Bones, but you're actually boarding ships and fucking sword fighting and like really badass game. And instead, they chose to give us a taste of another AAA thing. So because Assassin's Creed in general is the last few, from what people say, is not as good as 13 years ago or whatever. So.
Wow.
But anyway,
Um,
I feel so strongly on this. I get so irritated about Ubisoft, and hopefully they will kind of come back to where they were. But I feel like they've fallen off a lot.
Shout out Space Junkies, by the way. I wish they'd bring that one back for modern platforms. That was a good
That
game.
was a good one. I love that one.
Really quick, for those of you who may be questioning whether or not Sony's actually moving away from exclusivity, just one more headline to kind of uh, that fits the narrative here. In case you all haven't heard, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut was announced this past week, and for what platform? For PC. So there you go.
That's good. And I heard rumors too of and whether this is PC or not, there seems to be validity to it. It could just be a remaster on PlayStation 5, which would make me happy. But Bloodborne is being rumored to be remade as well, and I loved
Dude,
Bloodborne. It
those
was one of my
rumors,
favorite
those
ones.
rumors have been going around for years that they were
But
going to remake
yeah,
Bloodborne.
but this one, that has been, and that's been it's because it's a fan favorite. But like, I can't remember exactly what the specifics were, but it's somebody that just came out with something that just got proven right, and so there seems to be validity about it. But hopefully, hopefully it will be, because I love that game. I'd love to play it. I'd love to play it in VR. That'd be cool.
GD says Power Wash VR is a 5A VR title.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I'll tell you what, it may not be my type of game, and I kind of give it shit. People love Power Wash, so yeah, you got to give credit to where credit's due. If people love your game, it really doesn't matter if I like it or not. There's like so many more people out there than just me.
That's right. There's something for everyone, and just because it's not your thing or my thing, doesn't mean it's not good. It just means it's not
Absolutely.
our thing.
Yep.
Anyways, we'll kind of leave that topic at that. I'm sure we'll come back to it many times over the months and years ahead. But we have other things to talk about. We have VR games to talk about, and some of these topics are going to take quite some time to get through. So why don't we kick it off by saying hello to our friends in chat? Friends like Awesome Tatum says Ghost of Tsushima would be fun in VR if it were first person. One of these days, man. The fact that it's coming to PC means that it's a candidate, right, for mods. So maybe we'll see that sooner rather
And
than later.
I disagree with that statement in a sense, and which I'm not that it wouldn't be good for first person, but to preface it, that it sounds like it would only be good if it's in first person, and I think it would be amazing as is in third person
Through
with the
that.
same controls, just like this. Although you'd be getting the cool white controller that's a little bit better in technology than this POS.
True that. True that. Paradise Decay's in chat. Q Creator, Thundercat, TGC, Gustavo Barandas is in chat as well. VR Spry Guy, happy birthday. Silver Nexus is here. The Fourth Wall Breaker is here. What's up, Chinatown D? Good to see you. She's a honorary meta ambassador.
She is nice. That works. She should be.
Ambassador Emeritus, Chinatown D. Kill Artist 1, the Dreamweaver Game Cat is here. Says Sea of Thieves would be amazing in VR. I played for years with my children and my friends.
It's an amazing game, and it's coming to PlayStation soon, and they say it's the #1 pre-order of all time or something. Like, people are really excited
Wow.
about it. I was just telling D, I wish that game would come to VR. I wish that game is what Skull and Bones would have been like where you can actually go and actually sail a ship with 3 other friends. It's such an amazing game.
We have always lived in Castle Marycat is here, as is DJ Disco Beaver. What up? James UK PSVR 2 Addict is here as well as Mepper. Philozix is here. Garfield, the lasagna loving game cat is here. More VR is here. Technoglitch was first today. I can confirm that. What's up, Tech? Jerkstore CEO. What's up? Flippy Nuggets. What's up, Flippy Nuggets? Good to see you. Mark Smith is here. Scott the PSVR Game Cat for Life is here. Substatica in the house. Looper the Underground Game Cat is here. Thomas McNostril. Chaz Nasty is here. D-Rail. What's up, D-Rail? Good to see you, friend. Michelle B's here. What's up? London Rhodes is here. Rubber Fingers is here. Who else?
I had a couple
Scrolling,
slippies. Phil Yarn was a slippy, and somebody said that. Oh, Mickey Bear said, "Hey, everybody, I'm a slippy today."
What's up, Phil? What's up, Mickey? What's up, Tatty P's here. Black Market Honey is here. JS is here. Traveling Man 3775. The crew is here today, man. People coming out in droves to welcome us back.
Better than Friday night, because I want to tell everybody that's here that maybe didn't see. We were actually live on Friday. We're trying to get back to Friday nights, and a little bit low of attendance, but that's also to be expected since we haven't done a live on a Friday for 3 months, right?
Yeah, right.
So, but we are back on Fridays as well. So,
yeah, Strangers in the Night officially back. We did an episode on Friday covering the Pirate Queen and Swarm 2. So if you haven't checked that out, maybe go check it out afterwards. Space Denizens here. What's up, Void? Good to see you. Bluebell, of course, is here, as well as Samson 143 VR. Ryan B is here. Salvador is here. Who else? Starting to see a lot of the same names now as we scroll up. Still got some scrolling to do, though. Mal, of course, Mal's here, and Roy Schwartz. What's up, friends?
Super Nintendo Chalmers says they never got the notification for Friday. Dang. Yeah, that's another thing too. YouTube is like, we love you, YouTube, by the way, before I say this. They're just so bad about notifications sometimes. It's like one of the main things that you do. Just fucking tell people when people are going live, please just do it. Just send out a notification, and then we would have had Super Nintendo Chalmers here.
That's the one thing we need from you, YouTube. Well, two. We need you to tell people that we're going to be here, and we need you to make sure that you pay us the money that
that's right.
So
that's right.
Quadzilla is here as well, and that is as far north as we can hike. It's getting too cold up here. I'm going south. If we missed you, we apologize. Thank you for showing up. Did we have any other slippies? Phil Yarn, Mark Smith, Mickey Barrios. No, I think, it's Free VR Real Estate. There we go. There's a slippy, like True Prophecy 22. Also a slippy. And Super Nintendo Chalmers, of course. So thanks. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. We have a banging show for you today. So let's get to it.
You can call me anything. A manipulative traitor, crazy, whatever. But I am not a monster. I am not like Barrick. You know this.
The whole picture. What about the death of all those good soldiers and civilians, huh? Or are they not part of your goddamn picture?
So Zero Caliber 2 is a game that I'm excited for, and it is also a game that you can now pre-order. 10% discount on the Meta Quest store right now. This was a game that was announced some time ago, Roots, and it's a game that I am pretty hyped about. I'm a fan of the original Zero Caliber. It started off pretty rough, but by the end of its development, it turned into something pretty good. But at the same time, there were very clear things that they could improve on with regard to the campaign, with regard to just modernizing it for new hardware. There's definitely room to make a superior sequel here, and the footage that they've shown in their early trailers looks amazing. So before we get off on a tangent, I just want to say, Roots, I am excited for Zero Caliber 2. I look forward to playing it.
Yeah, I'm excited too to see what changes they've done. Like the game when it originally came out, I didn't like it the most. They made a lot of changes over the time as the first one was in existence. And then by the end of the first one, I liked it. I wasn't as big of a fan as you guys are. But I feel like the changes that they've done with other games in general, with how their gameplay was, and if that can come into this game and they can make the complete package, it could be really good. My only fear is that maybe they take my money and then they don't deliver. But I don't know. That's crazy, like it's crazy in 2024 to feel that way.
So it's funny that you mentioned that, Roots, because when I saw this game announced, the first thing that popped in my head was the first thing that popped into a lot of people's head. And so when I saw that the pre-orders were live for this, it made me wonder how many people were actually pre-ordering it. So I took to the X-Real Games Twitter to see how people were reacting to this news. And I snipped just a few comments that we'll see in this next slide here, just to kind of show what I saw when I got over there in general. And bear with me just a moment. My computer's being slow to bring these up for whatever reason. There it is. So in the main announcement, I saw it said, you've probably noticed the Q&A channel. We'll have a devlog video dropping in a couple of days where we'll answer your questions you sent us in that channel. So I went over to that channel to see what the questions were. And I noticed that a lot of people have the same question that I have. When will Gambit be finished? Where are all the new Gambit updates? What's the status of Gambit? This last one, Music for Life here, says, like many in here, I'm about to play Gambit again because I do miss the game. But I noticed no update since May of last year. So if there are any devs in here or anyone to give an answer about this game's future, it would be great. I don't want to see it die with them lying about never delivering the full finished game. It's almost like it was a gimmick to gain everyone's money on a quick demo to build Zero Caliber 2 while never making Zero Caliber 1 amazing. Amen, Roots. Like, we were excited about Gambit. We liked Gambit in spite of its jank, its clear jank that it had on launch. We very much still promoted it. We believed in the studio that they would eventually fix the problems that it had at launch. But, man, they act like this game doesn't even exist anymore. Like, that they're not talking to anyone about any of this. I found it surprising that they have a Q&A channel because I went in there and they're not answering any of the questions.
Yeah, what's the point of having a Q&A unless you're not going to answer it? What's the point of having a Discord if you're not going to, if people are going to say if there's any devs out there? Well, you're on their Discord. You would hope there'd be devs on there, right? It'd be like someone coming in Virtual Strangers and saying, I hope Wes and Roots are here. Well, fuck, man, it's our Discord. I hope we're there too. Like it's so
Right.
it's such a weird thing. And I do want to preface this, Spry says poor Guido was so hyped for Gambit. That was my thing. We were hyped, and I think if you go back and might have even seen it, yeah, there was flaws with Gambit. We looked at how much work and everything they did with this game, right? Zero Caliber 1, and how much they changed it over time. And we assumed they're going to fix bugs, they're going to add content, they're going to make this game what they promised us to be. And so yeah, we even in spite of its flaws, we sold it. We told people, hey, check this game out, buy it. Now I feel like, I feel bad because and there's no way we can tell, but I guess we just misplaced our trust in this studio. And that's kind of what I was saying or leading to in the intro of it. Like, do I believe that Zero Caliber 2 is going to come out, maybe have some issues, and then 6 months from a year from now, uh, wait, where's the updates? What's going on? They promised us. I don't know. I can't now. I cannot go to Zero Caliber 1 and say, okay, this is what I'm going to base everything on. They have a history. Well, now they also have a history of fucking me over and taking my money and not delivering the product because and if you say, okay, no, they got it. Well, can I go play with Wes and Mash? Can I go play with my friends? The reason I bought Gambit, I can't. It's broke. At least the last time we went in there, and I don't. Assuming this person that did this comment and is correct, there's no updates since May of last year. So yeah, I'm a little salty about it, and
Yeah.
the bad thing is I didn't even pay for it. I got my copy for free, so they didn't screw me as much as they screwed all of you. So I just hopefully they don't do it again. That's all I gotta say.
Right. So yeah, so basically we sold people Gambit, we sold wolf tickets, and people got screwed. Now here we have Zero Caliber 2, a game I'm legitimately excited for, a game I do believe is going to be good, but now it's time for me to sell people on the idea of pre-ordering this game, and I just can't do that. I can't suggest to people that they should invest in this game um, because of how Gambit was handled, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I do want to see this game and the studio succeed. But man, even before Gambit came out, they were terrible at communicating with people, not just players, but like even like content creators. Like that, they're notoriously difficult to get a response from. And and now when they do stuff like what they did with Gambit, it makes you feel like they just don't really have any respect for anyone.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. It just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. You know who also loves to have a bad taste in their mouth?
My mom!
I'm just not sure. Brondo says I'm salty about the lack of mom jokes. You know who's not salty about?
My
Loves the
mom!
salt anyway. But no, it's just throwing those in there for that. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Kill Artist, the Dream Weaver Game Cat says I just bought a Virtual Stranger shirt. Nice looking shirt. $1.99 super chat and Stormland
Nice.
Paradise Decay, €2. Stormland back in the Oculus Meta Store, baby. And how crazy is it? Yes, I went over my head, but I was like, why would they pull it off? Wes is like, well, people are buying it again. Because why else would they pull it off the store, right? So
That's great. I'm glad it's back. There for a moment today when I saw how shitty the news was, and I was thinking about what are we going to do for a show. It occurred to me for a moment that maybe you and I just get in together and stream Stormland
yeah,
co-op
at some point, yeah, I'll
because
tell
it's
you
such
what,
a great game.
that game is so amazing, and we both have superior hardware compared to the last time
Uh,
we went in there,
that's
right?
right.
So
That's right. And even the last time we went in there, we had to dial back some of the settings, like to make it run smoothly. And we probably still would have to some extent, but I like having the overhead now because even with the settings dialed back, it was absolutely beautiful. So now being able to really go ham with all of the volumetric fog and everything that's going on in there, I bet we could make it look all that much better.
yeah, that was some of the best gameplay I've played in VR. And I feel like if they fully fleshed out a fully fleshed game, which was like 99% there, uh, it would be even better. And I think hopefully Sony PlayStation VR 2 will do something because that would be amazing.
Paradise Decay says, I'll buy that stream for $1. So PD wants to see us do it. So maybe next time we have a slow week, maybe that's what we do instead of one of these. Maybe
Yeah,
we just stream some Stormland.
absolutely.
Good question, Kill Artist. Does Stormland look good on Quest 3? Then he says standalone. It doesn't run standalone. It is a PC game only. Um, but it's a good question. How does it look on Quest 3?
Ooh,
Um,
I bet I've
with,
not. I
with the
mean, just the pancake lenses alone is going to be a
yeah,
big game changer, right? Clarity, because that
yeah.
game was already looked amazing, but the sharpness is going to be awesome.
So not only do we have our new rigs to check it out, and we've got new headsets to check it out in as well.
It's true.
And the only other question is, how long can we play before the battery runs out?
That's a good question. Well, I'll tell you what. The last time I played streamed, I think it was I was talking about I think it was aliens or something. And my headset died. I didn't even think about it, but I'd gone into VR chat or something a long time ago and turned on my facial expressions and eye tracking and hand tracking, and shit doesn't need to be on when you're playing
Right.
UEVR, and that drains the battery so fast. So I turned all that stuff off unless I want to go in and
You know,
impress people.
while we're on the subject, the Oculus Link did just get an update, and one of the things that they're touting in this latest update is better battery life.
Oh
So,
yeah. Yeah,
um,
so that and then also somebody was saying something about I guess virtual desktop, right? A lot of people are using that. I think I might have even mentioned it on the crewcast a little bit, but like cuz people are say there's no reason to pick it up, but like it actually uses foveated rendering. It uses like all everything that the eye tracking and facial tracking and things that Meta doesn't even really use too much of in their stuff. So I think it's cool. I think Guy is amazing, and I think everybody should still support the hell out of his software. If you don't own Virtual Desktop, you should own it. It's I think it's the best program of that type out there. So
anyway, before we get too far along, again, thank you, PD. Thank you, Kill Artist, for the donations. Um, I really appreciate it. I need new headphones. These ones are falling apart, and that's what you're donating toward is me not having to wear shitty headphones that are literally falling apart on my head. I appreciate it. Anyways, let's move along. Zero Caliber 2, the moral of the story is it looks awesome. Don't pre-order it. Wait for it to come out. Don't buy it until you're sure it's awesome.
yeah, 100%.
Anyway, let's move along. We have another game here that we reported on a long time ago, Roots, and finally, we have a release date.
These men will regret coming here.
Been a long time since I used one of these. Oh yeah. That felt good.
Black Trail official release date trailer is out now. So, not a story anywhere about this on any of the major VR media routes. I didn't even know that this game had finally gotten its release date until I literally was searching for topics to talk about today, and I was scrolling through my Discord channels, and it just so happens that I'm a part of this Discord for this game, and yeah, it's coming out first week of April. I think it said April 4th. This is a game we covered a long time ago when it was announced, and it does look a bit indie looking at the footage of it, but it's a genre that is very underserved in the VR catalog, and it looks like it could be a lot of fun to play. We don't get enough cowboys and Indians in VR routes.
Absolutely not. And it kind of reminds me a lot of Weird West, one of the games that I've played that I was recommending to you for Unreal Engine VR, in some ways, and I really love that game. And like I'm just even watching it through that perspective, and I'm like, wow, this could be like really cool. And so I don't care if it's indie, as long as it's like it could look just like it does exactly. Yeah, it looks a little bit indie. Give me a good story, give me good mechanics, good gunfire, good gunplay, or bow and arrow, whatever. I don't care. It doesn't need to. Everything I just said earlier about AAA games in a lot of ways being bloated. Like, it doesn't need to be of that level. Just give me the amazing gameplay. I'm playing games to have fun. I don't know about everybody else. As long as it's fun, um, that's all I care about. And Gamer Chick throwing down a $20 super
Oh,
chat. And I appreciate you, Tiffany. And we need to get back
thanks.
into another something with you. We were talking about that recently. We want to go on location with you, Tiffany. Pick your
Oh,
brain.
yeah, we were talking. Yeah, Roots and I were talking off camera about maybe having you back on for another episode because we enjoyed it so much the last time you were on. I think Tiffany's going to be in Boston, Roots,
See, now I feel like now
in a
I'm
couple weeks.
well, that's one more reason why I wish I could be there.
Anyway, thank you for the donation, Tiffany. Thank you for being here. We missed you. Um, let's take a look at the Steam page for the Black Trail VR, just in case people aren't familiar with this title, just to give people an idea of what this is. For the record, this game is coming to PlayStation VR 2 at some point in the future. It has been announced. So, those of you who don't have PC out there, don't fret. I think this is going to come to all platforms eventually. But Black Trail is a VR shooter set in an epic war in the Old West. Plays a seasoned bounty hunter and a vengeful Native American warrior. Follow their interwoven stories, use a wide range of weapons, explore ravaged lands, and fight as you chase newly discovered artifacts to change the fate of the war. Um, Single player only. I think it's going to support all major VR headsets. So Valve Index, it'll support Oculus headsets and WMR. It's the Gold Rush era. Native people attacked the Snake Canyon mine just after a few days when white men discovered ancient artifacts. Jack, an experienced bounty hunter, and White Eagle, a respected warrior among his people, are after the same artifacts for different reasons. Switch between characters throughout chapters. Use unique historical weapons, fight hundreds of men in a wide Old West world, and change the fate of the war. Dive into intense and varied combat encounters with a wide range of weapons. Each weapon introduces a unique mechanic and a new play style. Survive, defend, infiltrate, or escape. Discover a new area and overcome a new challenge in each chapter. Witness the clash of two worlds through the eyes of different characters and unravel the mysterious powers of ancient artifacts. Unlock the bounty hunt after the main campaign and earn bounties when you kill in style and find timed bounty bags. Use the money to create unique weapon enhancement combinations and compete with the other players to become a legend. Experience a realistic and smooth VR interaction while using weapons and objects. Choose from multiple movement and ease of use options designed for VR. Follow the characters' epic stories through fully narrated and animated shorts. Walk in delicately designed Old West inspired environments, and much more. So, not only Roots do we get cowboys and Indians here, both from the perspective of cowboy and Indian. Um, it's touting a variety of different gameplay styles. It's touting a fully narrated and animated story-driven campaign, and they're working in even elements of supernatural magic with regard to these artifacts that you're finding. Um, so a lot to like here about this title, and this is just a kind of a prime example of the type of games that indie VR has to offer, right? It's not all, shovelware on the Quest store. Like the indie game devs can still make amazing games. So when you hear us ranting on about the garbage in the catalog, it's not games like this that we're talking about. These are the examples of what indie VR should look like.
Yeah, sometimes indie games will take chances major studios won't, and so you'll get a type of game that you can't get anywhere else in some ways. And somebody in the chat nailed it, or actually many people. Like we have a lot of games in general, like flat and a few in VR or whatever from Cowboys' perspective. How many have you played from the Indians' perspective? I can't think of one. Zero. I think that's cool, man. Like, and why do we want to forget history? I think it'd be fucking badass if I could like go and I could scalp a cowboy or something and just like, I think the Indians were like ruthless, badass fucking fighters. There's been several examples, not every tribe, but several examples of like crazy, amazing warriors throughout history, and a lot of them were Native American. So I think it's cool. I'd like to try it. Check it out.
Yeah, I think it's awesome, and we don't have long to wait. April 8th, according to the Steam page. So yeah, anyone who's interested in learning more about this, just hit me up. I'll throw you an invite to their Discord channel. Like I mentioned before, I've been a member of it for a long time, and not much longer to wait. This one's coming out in a few weeks, and I'm looking forward to playing it.
It's coming out on the day of the eclipse, April 8th.
Oh yeah, the big eclipse.
The big
I've
eclipse,
seen-
yeah, man. The
seen
world
some
ender.
headlights about this one.
People are already starting to get so freaked out. It's just gonna be another eclipse, and shit'll just keep going on like it'll keep on keeping on, right?
That's right. As it always does. Anyway, we move along to kind of the main event of today's show. The game that I most want to talk about, and the game I have the most to say about, Into the Radius 2. And we're not leading into the Radius 2 with a trailer because there's not a trailer for it yet. And I didn't want to play the old Into the Radius trailer when we're not talking about that game. So we're going to just head right into it, Roots, because while there may not be a trailer for Into the Radius out there, there is a lot of information on Into the Radius out there. There's been dev diaries for the last 3+ months going over every little specific aspect of the game and giving us a lot of detail. Nobody's aware of this except for the super fans that are following along. So I thought we'd take a look at these dev diaries today and see what we can find out about this upcoming sequel that I'm super hyped for. I say I'm hyped for Zero Caliber 2. I'm kind of hyped for Zero Caliber 2. I'm super hyped for Into the Radius 2. I think this game's going to be phenomenal.
The first one was cool, but I mean, in this one, I was like, okay, it's not my type of game, but just the fact that it's a 4-player co-op changes everything. I think it's this type of game needs to be experienced with your friends, and yeah, cool.
So this is going to take a little while. There's 6 pages, 6 different dev diaries we're going to read through. I think we'll read through one. We'll talk a little bit on it. We'll read through the next. We'll talk a little bit on it, and so on and so forth. A lot of cool information in these diaries. So we'll start with the first one, which is the overview. This came out on December 29th. That's how long this information's been out there in the ether with no one talking about it. Anyway, hello, explorers. This is the first entry we'd like to share our general vision for Into the Radius 2, what we're paying special attention to during development, and what our explorers can expect from their new adventures in the Radius. Into the Radius 1 had a long and arduous journey. The most important part during its development cycle was the refinement of the game's concept and gameplay formula, and in a way that was achievable by our team. Into the Radius 1 received many updates over the years. On the one hand, it moved away from its original overly ambitious ideas, but on the other hand, it became a lot more thought out, detailed, and whole. Into the Radius 2 is our next big step in this direction, a chance to significantly evolve what explorers liked about the first game and to realize certain ideas we couldn't before. Our main goals with the sequel are to preserve and maintain what made the original special, upgrade its most important gameplay aspects, and deliver a quality way you can enjoy it with your friends. Now, let's talk about some of the bigger changes coming to Into the Radius 2 that we can already share with you today. This will be an entirely separate story, which unfolds sometime after the events of Into the Radius 1. Explorer 61, the protagonist of the original, regardless of his final decision, had a significant impact on the UNPSC's research of the Pechorsk anomaly. Our new hero, a different explorer, will have to tread a similar path, however, in brand new locations and with far greater consequences. The game will still focus on forays into the radius, but our explorers can expect new places, dangers, and adventures. We're trying to develop Into the Radius 2's locations on a whole new level for us. This includes not only image quality and visual consistency of said locations, but also staying as true as possible to the visuals and conditions of the Baltic city of Pechorsk and its surroundings as of 1987, right before the unexpected appearance of the half-sphere of the Pechorsk anomaly, later named the Radius. The gameplay in these locations will remain the same for the most part, but it'll be affected by various new factors which we'll share another time. The use and treatment of firearms is just as significant in the sequel, if not more so. There will be fewer guns than before. However, every single one is developed from scratch with a high attention to detail. Additional animations, sounds, and new customization options which can impact their feel and use. Equipment management is getting an upgrade as well. Our updated loadout system includes new tactical vests and backpacks. This in turn will let you choose a configuration that better fits your playstyle. At the base, explorers can expect new options for storing and upgrading equipment, and of course, weapon cleaning. Into the Radius 2 is meant to be a fully fledged single-player experience, but with the option of up to 4-player co-op if you so choose. Co-op mode will have a separate save from single player, so no cross-progression between the two. It also won't have any unique content unattainable in single player. As a matter of fact, our initial internal playtests show that by keeping the same mechanics and features, the game can play and feel very differently when experienced with someone alongside you, and yet still remain true to an adventure you're familiar with in the Radius. We've got a long road ahead of us, on which we'll try our best to meet expectations of our players and create a worthy sequel to Into the Radius 1. In future Dev Diary entries, we intend to delve deeper into various aspects of the game. Thank you for your continued support. See you in the Radius. So, without diving into too much of what they were saying here in this brief overview, I will say this about these devs. Everything that we were kind of saying about X-Real Games and Zero Caliber earlier, this studio has shown just the opposite. This studio released Into the Radius 1 when it was not ready to be released. It was a janky mess. It was not a good game at all. But over the years, they listened to the community. They implemented update after update after update after update. They're still updating it. And not only is it a good game, it's one of the best games in the VR library now. So while we don't have very much confidence in Zero Caliber 2 and how it might come out, I have every confidence that Into the Radius 2 is going to be just as amazing as the first one, probably more.
Yeah, it's the opposite. It's a complete opposite. It's like you said, I pretty much thought, okay, the game, they got it good. Like I thought the game was, like you said, a bit janky. You could see where it was going, and that's why you're like, okay, we see it. They just need to perfect it. Then they perfected it. They got everything running good. I said, okay, they're done. They got it. And then they kept perfecting it and adding and tweaking and adding and adding and tweaking. So much so that it's almost a completely different game. And yeah, so this is the type of studio that you do have faith in from day one, because you know how committed they are. And yeah, it's sad when you say the same thing or the opposite about the last game, because I would have said the same thing about that studio with Zero Caliber. and then they
Right.
just kind of tainted it. So,
Right.
you know, sometimes leadership changes, and so does a company. But apparently, this
That's
one
true.
is still putting out amazing stuff.
That's true. And, Into the Radius not only went to become amazing on Steam, but it's one of the better games in the Quest catalog as well. Beautiful on Quest, PC esque visuals and gameplay that's nearly 1-to-1.
Traveling Man says, what I loved about Into the Radius was that I felt I had to adapt to the environment to succeed, bringing full immersion, which is very true. A very harsh environment, very realistic game, right? So, do you
Yep.
think it will change? I mean, I guess they said it's going to change the experience, but it'll still remain true. You'll still have an adventure that you're familiar with. But they did say that they're not really going. It's not going to change as far as like you would expect some games there's 4 people in there, so the difficulty scales up, right? That's
Yep.
clearly not going to be this. So if you want that true experience, you want to be that lone person on this planet, which is kind of what they, even in the way they described it, is what they really want you to play it as. To get that full immersion, then I would recommend doing it solo. But if you have more, you put more value in playing with your friends, and then maybe like jumping in their backpack and getting carried through the game, which would be me. I'd call dibs on Scion. He's definitely one of the one of the people I want to go in there with. But I think it's cool. It's fun.
The co-op's going to really change how the game is played to a completely different experience because playing Into the Radius, um, you're on a clock, right? You have to get in and get out before I forget what they call it, like the event happens that kind of resets and reshuffles everything. Um, so now going in with friends, you're going to be able to cover ground, right? 2 people, twice as much ground. 3 people, 3 times as much ground. You're not necessarily going to have to stay together, but you're going to be able to go to different areas of the map and explore. And it's going to save a lot of time that, in the original one, you would have had to gone out to one area at a time, finding one clue at a time to progress.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep.
Maybe you go out there and you do multiple things, kind of changes everything up, but it's very similar. I think it adds replayability, right? Maybe the first time you
Yeah.
play it through, and I guarantee this is the way it would be. And I pretend like Scion hasn't already been playing it, probably helping them develop it. He was so big with the
Right.
first one, right?
Exactly.
But he's the
Exactly.
type of person that would want to play through the entire game by himself first before he went in and tried it, the multiplayer. But it would give you replayability, right? Because it's going to change everything, the whole aspect of it. So I think that's kind of cool too.
So let's talk a little bit about the locations, the topic of Dev Diary number 2. Hello, explorers. Today we'll delve into some of the locations of Into the Radius 2. Let's start with the world structure. In Into the Radius 1, there were separate locations linked by pathways. They were different sizes and would gradually interconnect with increasing difficulty and time spent in the radius. The player could find additional pathways and move more freely between these areas. In Into the Radius 2, the general structure remains unchanged. The world is separated into multiple locations, each connected by pathways. There won't be a complete open world. These locations can be separated into 3 types: general, satellite, and special. General locations are massive areas, bigger than any location in Into the Radius 1, but smaller than the open world map of Into the Radius 1 1.0. These areas will consist of multiple points of interest. Our explorers are familiar with the play patterns in such locations, finding artifacts, collecting loot, killing monsters, completing missions, etc. Satellite locations are smaller areas. They're meant for unique main events that contain new mechanics, heavy lore or story beats, or special conditions. The first time you visit such a location, it's strictly story, main mission focused. However, after completing said event, you'll be able to return here. It'll become similar to a general location with loot, missions, monsters, the tide, etc. Special locations are smaller areas as well, but with a unique role in Into the Radius 2. For example, one of them is your base, a place where you can relax and get ready for your next venture. Another example is the tutorial area. Here, our explorers will learn general mechanics, tools, abilities of the game, similar to Into the Radius 1. As mentioned above, these locations will be connected by pathways. Some will unlock immediately, others after some time. You won't be able to travel from the starting area to the end in one go. New locations will be more difficult than previous ones. However, older locations will evolve along with the player's progression, more so for the sake of variety rather than just difficulty like during auto leveling. Time to mention an important addition. Jumping! This opens up new ways to explore the world and gives us a new way to bring more gameplay variety. Jumping in VR can be an unpleasant mechanic, so we're trying our best to make it comfortable. Walking, sprinting, crouching, all are present, and for the most part untouched. Climbing has also remained Into the Radius 2 and will get some improvements. Please keep in mind that the game still isn't about parkour, so don't expect leaps of faith into a haystack. Considering all these movement mechanics, we've revised our approach to location design. We're already adding more areas where players are required to climb, jump, or crouch. Climbable zones will be visually distinct so that players can easily identify if there's more, even if it's even possible in a given area. We're also trying to make our locations more prominent than in Into the Radius 1, adding more variety and diversity to these areas as a result. In our first versions of early access, you can expect one general location, one satellite, the base, and tutorial areas. Important to note that these locations will still be a work in progress and subject to change during early access. We've got more dev diaries coming soon. Thanks for reading, and see you in the Radius. So, a couple things to get excited about here, Rude. First of all, hello, we can jump now. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And if any devs are out there listening right now, I don't ever want to hear it mentioned again, spoken in that way, like it's uncomfortable. Like it's a necessary thing for me. It feels weird. Like, you know what I mean? We want to be immersed in every other way, but like in real life, I guess there's some people that can't jump, but most of us can jump if I want to. I like to jump when I'm running around, and so I feel like it almost can feel claustrophobic sometimes in certain games for me. It sounds weird, but it just because I jump so much in every other game, and like it says, why would you not want to add that extra amount of, ways to maneuver around the land and jump, So cool.
The
Hopefully
other
it's not a
thing that
weird
I
jump.
found, right, yeah, right. Hopefully it's a good one. The other thing that I read in there that I found to be very exciting is it sounds like these locations are going to be much more explorable now. That there's going to be hard to get to areas that you either climb to or jump down into. And, a lot of what made Into the Radius 1 so special was the exploration element. So the fact that these maps are going to have more of a vertical element to them now, there's going to be more hidden areas, and just more diversity in general to the maps. I think that's something to be excited for.
Nobody's going to argue with more diversity. 2024, for sure. That definitely sounds good to me. Everything you just said, I like movement. I like being able to move in different ways, and it sounds like they're not done thinking outside the box, which is good. I don't want to see Into the Radius 1 with co-op added to it in a different story. I want to see Into the Radius 2, and it sounds like that's what they're delivering.
Well, let's talk about the story then. Dev Diary number 3, the narrative. Hello, explorers. Into the Radius was originally designed to have gameplay and story closely interwoven. The game avoids separation into purely cinematic story cutscenes and interactive gameplay modes. Players are always engaged in the gradual unraveling of the story in every moment of the game. However, limited resources and a higher priority on gameplay didn't allow us to fully realize the majority are ideas for lore and story in Into the Radius 1. In the sequel, we want to deliver a more detailed and complete narrative, maintaining the core design philosophy mentioned above and ironing out the inconsistencies and critical errors of the original. Before we dive into the topic further, we'd like to quickly address the community discourse and theories in relation to the guns in Into the Radius 1. Some of them don't fit from a historical point of view, existing before they were technically invented. In our defense, after the appearance of the Radius in 1987, the in-game world becomes an alternate history, in which they could have been invented sooner, and so the committee might have gotten access to them for testing. Regardless, we hope you've had fun with those guns just as much as with the others. So, what can our players expect from a story and narrative standpoint? The events of Into the Radius 1 took place at the turn of the century. The sequel takes place several years after the ending of the previous game, the mid-2000s. The final events of Into the Radius 1 had a significant impact on the committee. Thanks to the data gathered and prospects unlocked, it acquired greater resources and ambitions. This directly affected the explorers. In Into the Radius 2, they'll be residing in new bases designed from scratch. In addition to older equipment, getting an upgrade, completely new types will be available as well. Changes will affect the majority of the equipment designed by the committee. What remains the same, however, is the committee's treatment of the explorers who remain isolated in their bases with only the Radius to venture into. The main character of Into the Radius 2 is a new nameless explorer who will make his own path into the center of the Radius. In co-op mode, the story will revolve around the host of the co-op game, while their friends will act as partners on their journey. In terms of presenting the plot, even though it's intended to have a more in-depth narrative and more structured story, we will still avoid the use of traditional cutscenes that remove control from the player, include a lot of dialogue, or other non-interactive techniques. At the core of Into the Radius' story lies the gameplay itself and how it affects the player. With this approach, a very significant part of our focus is on visual narrative. A couple of examples without spoilers include changes to the committee and how we're reworking locations of the Pachorsk anomaly. The new base and its details will more clearly reflect the committee's treatment of its volunteers, as well as its change in this approach compared to Into the Radius 1. In the general, the base was improved, careless, and shabby in the original. In the original, the base was improvised, careless, and shabby. This expressed the committee's disappointment and despair in trying to derive at least some practical benefit from the research of the Radius. The Into the Radius 2 base and upgraded equipment are meant to show the new capabilities and mood of the committee. When working on the locations of the Radius, we adhere to the concept of thematic layering. The first layer consists of landscapes and nature, determined by the geographical location of the Pachorsk anomaly, Eastern Europe, the border of one of the Baltic countries. The second layer is the man-made infrastructure corresponding to the city of Pachorsk and its environment at the time of 1987, where and when the Pachorsk anomaly appeared. The third is the Radius layer, which reflects the gloomy, surreal, and deadly essence of the Pachorsk anomaly. And the final layer adds traces of the committee and its explorers, which directly depend on how inhabited a particular location is by them and how close it is to the edge or center of the Radius. All of these layers revolve around what kind of gameplay is planned for each location and create an appropriate narrative context for it based on the lore and story. In early access, our main objective is to ensure that the general gameplay cycle of Into the Radius 2 functions as intended. This means that the first iterations of early access won't include fully fledged story elements, but you'll already be able to experience the general visual narrative of the Explorer base and the first locations of the Radius, Everything else will come in future updates to the game. Thanks for reading. See you in the next one. Um, so a bit of a mixed bag here, Roots. Obviously, a lot of excitement from someone like me who values narrative almost
Mm.
above most other things. That they're paying more attention to narrative in this one. That they're planning to uh, more fully implement their original vision for the game that they weren't able to achieve the first time around. On the other hand, um, it seems like as we read more and more of these diaries, they keep alluding to the fact that the early access of this game is just going to be a very small slice of what's planned, which kind of dulls my excitement a bit. I was excited this game's coming this year, but it doesn't seem like the real game is coming this year. It's probably going to be next year, or maybe even the year after, before we get the game that we're looking forward to.
Yeah, yeah, which is it's bittersweet. I mean, yeah, so many games that come out that have been in development for 10 years, 7 of them you don't even know that they were in a development. And so, I mean, clearly this isn't that long of a development, but it takes a couple years for them to get it fully fleshed out. They want to I guarantee the first version of this will be better than the first version of the first one. And I think that's what will matter, right? And we know that they'll deliver. So the question is, how far do we delve into it, right? I guarantee we'll probably go into it, but do we really want to play that deep? Like, I would rather play the finished game that deep versus, uh, the first iteration.
Right. Right. Um, and again, this is something that we saw with the first game. Like when it first came out, it was rough, man. But it eventually became something special. I'm banking on the fact that their experience and plus having a foundation to work from with this game is going to mean that the first versions of the game that we see hit early access will be much better than the first versions of the first game that we saw in early access. I'm
Yeah.
hopeful, anyway.
Well, we know that the mechanics, everything that they've done, it's not like they're starting from scratch and they don't know what they're doing. The game is based, it's similar enough to where the core mechanics, the way everything moves, the way the guns, feel. I mean, the things that matter are going to be there. What won't be there in full flesh until it's completely finished will be all of the story and content that they keep adding to it, right? So I think you're right. I think it'll be night and day difference. You know, it'll be better than the end product of one was, and that's what matters. So
Yeah, absolutely. Vargosoft says, at least that gives me a chance to pick up Into the Radius 1 and try and finish it. Exactly. I never finished the first one either, and I got pretty far into it, but there was still quite a bit to go, I feel like. And if they're going to heavily focus on narrative and picking up, um, even though you're in a new character, you're still kind of picking up the story with the second one.
yeah,
I think it's a
absolutely.
good reason to go back and finish the original.
Or even start it. M's Reality says, I'm just interested in the first one now, since the fact that there is a sequel. And sometimes
Yeah.
people are like that, It's like the sequel comes out and then it adds legitimacy to the first one, right? And they're like, oh my God, people, and then they see how well received that game was. I mean, it's legitimately the only stalker game that exists in virtual reality, stalker-esque,
Yeah.
right? And
Right.
they did a very good job of making it uh good. So
Well, if you like survival gameplay, survival shooters, you're gonna love it. It's really it's hardcore, and it's fun, and it's beautiful, and it's scary, and it's original. It's a very unique game. There's really nothing else like this in the VR catalog.
very realistic too, right? Like a lot of
Yeah,
games,
it's
it's
gritty.
more sim like in a sense as far as the guns, and like you got to keep them cleaned and maintained, and they can
Yeah,
jam on you, and but then
yeah,
you're
and
also in this surreal environment. It's clearly not the way the world is, right?
and and in the later versions of the game, with the later updates, they added options in. So if you're not like completely into the hardcore survival stuff, you can set the options so that stuff isn't as big a factor in the gameplay. So
God, I
if you
hope
don't
that's-
like that aspect of it, you can dull it down quite a bit now.
hope that's not like that on day one, which I would imagine it is for the sequel, right? Because I'm not into. I like some survival aspects, but if I'm hearing "damn, I'm thirsty" every 5
That's
seconds,
exactly what I was about to say. Damn, I'm thirsty.
it can be too much. Like survival games, um, I'm not trying to really recreate surviving in the. You know what I mean? I want the story. I want some of it. But I think that's what's cool about when devs give you the options. Like you kind of need to have the options because there's other people. They need to feel like it's 100% survival. And why would you steal that from them? Like, you know what I mean? So just give everybody the option. Same thing with jumping. You should make it to where the jumping isn't like don't give me my thing is I don't want like a teleport jump. I just want a regular jump. So if you want to give like the people that get sick, which is starting to become fewer, some kind of a weird jump that makes you feel weird, give it to them. Give me a normal jump like I would have in every other game. Doesn't make me sick, and options are good.
Yep, absolutely. So people might be thinking to themselves, who gives a shit about environments and story? Let's talk about the fucking guns. Damn it. This is what we like shooting things, and that's all we like. So let's talk about guns. Hello, explorers. Guns are one of the most important elements of Into the Radius. They are a part of your overall progression, an instrument for different styles of combat, a collection piece, and even a form of self expression. In Into the Radius 2, guns as a whole will consist of the following: functionality and visuals, technical systems, upgrades, attachments, cleaning, and sounds. Functionality and visuals. In Into the Radius 2, we'll try our best to have the guns be as close to their realistic counterparts as possible. One of our team members is purely focused on the development of guns. This helps us greatly increase the detail of weapon functionality, add new animations, and better the quality of the visuals. Now, every single gun is created from scratch. This has made the process more difficult, but it lets us develop these weapons how we want to. Technical systems. This includes ballistics, recoil, gun and ammo parameters, surface penetration, etc. There's a lot of changes, and quite different too. We'll touch upon the finer details in future dev diary entries. The most important parts we'd like to point out now are the changes to recoil and an overhaul of the parameter system. Recoil is more complex than before, which will help us make each gun feel more unique. As for gun and ammo parameters, there's going to be more of them. For example, ammo will now have a greater impact on your weapon, affecting aim, damage, recoil, durability, and so on. Upgrades. In Into the Radius 1, the player could change their gun's stats through the upgrade system and add attachments. Into the Radius 2 will follow the same upgrade process, but will have a wider number of options. Currently, we're working on 3 upgrade branches. Let's take a closer look. Changing gun parameters. This is similar to Into the Radius 1, decreasing recoil, adjusting rate of fire, increasing reliability, etc. Changing gun parts. This will let you change gun stats, mechanics, and or add new attachment points. Players will be able to change the forend from a regular to a tactical one, which will have more attachment points, or change their pistol handle to a tactical one, decreasing recoil. Players will also be able to switch the stock of the certain guns, completely changing their reloads, replacing the internal chamber with external detachable magazines. Gun color patterns. Patterns will unlock as you progress through the game. They will apply to your firearm instantly, no manual coloring or painting. You'll be able to color your attachments and magazines as well, separately or along with your gun. We hope this upgrade system will let our players configure and customize their favorite guns as deeply as possible. Attachments are another important aspect of your gun. We know you want more of them, so do we. Apart from increasing the variety of possible attachments, we'll also add special ones that let you add attachments on themselves. e.g., a Picatinny rail at a 45-degree angle, a mount with multiple Picatinny rails, a scope with a Picatinny rail on top, etc. This will allow you to create some pretty weird combination of attachments, but to help balance this much freedom, your gun parameters will be affected. Cleaning. Here, for the most part, everything remains the same. We'll update the visuals of the process, as well as rework some cleaning instruments. Instead of paper towels, there'll be special brushes. Over time, your cleaning instruments will break, so you'll have to replace them. No more toilet paper pyramids. Sounds. It's important to us that the guns sound authentic. In Into the Radius 2, we're using the Meta Sounds system, which helps make the sounds more complex and of a higher quality. Taking everything we mentioned above into account, it's clear that the process of developing guns has certainly become harder. At early access launch, there will be 3 guns available, with more to come during development, of course. Currently, our plan for full release is to have 16 guns chambered in 9 different calibers. This is less than in Into the Radius 1, but thanks to all these new mechanics and features, we'll hope you'll gain a lot more enjoyment from using every single gun. Please note that at the start of early access, not all of these features will be present. During early access, we aim to lay the proper foundation and groundwork for these systems, thanks to your feedback, to be able to more easily implement content in the future. See you in the Radius. So what they said here, Roots, was absolutely true. The guns were a big part of Into the Radius 1. And for those of you Johnny Come Lately VR fans that are so enamored with a game like Ghost of Tabor because of the level of detail that they're putting into guns and the care of guns, Into the Radius 2 was kind of the first step in that direction. Obviously, Tabor has taken it off to a new extreme. But what I take from this latest dev diary, Roots, is that they plan to continue on in that direction themselves to make it more realistic, to make sure that there's more options, and that this aspect of the game is as realistic as possible.
Well, how cool. I mean, it's staying true to yourself. I mean, that's one of the reasons why people love this type of game. Everything you said in there sounds good and matters. The sounds especially, like they're taking great lengths. Like we talk about it in VR, in even just in a general, even if it was a flat game, like the sound matters. Like the way every gun sounds, but especially in VR. So I'm glad that they're taking such great care to make sure that it's going to be just as good, if not better, which it sounds better to me than the first one. The only thing that I'm not enthused about, and I agree with DJ Disco Beaver, is the cleaning. They say, don't mind gun cleaning in VR, just don't make it realistic. I hate cleaning rifles. There's just some things that I'm not big on, and I guess that would be part of probably the easier mode, like a mode that doesn't require your guns to be cleaned. I don't need my gun to be breaking. There's so much going on in a game like this. That's just one extra added thing that doesn't make me excited about it. It makes me excited that it exists because, again, it's not about me. Like, this game needs to exist in this form, this type of game, right? And hopefully there'll be a version that's a little bit less realistic mode.
I see both sides here. Like, obviously, it's not fun to have to do work in VR, and I'm never a big fan of doing work in VR. I think the people that like that sort of thing like it because it makes it so that they have to work harder to achieve their goals, and thereby making achieving those goals more rewarding and something to be, happy and proud about, because they had to fucking clean their gun every time they went back to the base and had to do all this tedious bullshit just so that they could succeed. So while it's not our thing, I definitely understand why certain people like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and they probably would love the rowing the boat and the climbing in that game we talked about the other night, the pirate game, the stuff that you felt like was extra filler. Not that it's filler. I just my thing is it's games like this go too far for me. I'm not trying to relive life, but it's a sim game. It needs to be realistic in every single way. And even if there is no mode for someone that's lazy like me, that's fine. I'd rather have it be in its true form. So, yeah, this is exciting.
So moving on, we have two more dev diaries. These last two dealing with what really makes Into the Radius stand out from all other games. And first, we have the anomalies. Hello, explorers. The Pachorsk anomaly is full of dangers, and today we'll shed some light on one of these you might encounter when venturing into the radius. When heading out, explorers will face two types of lethal obstacles: enemies and anomalies. Unlike enemies, which we'll cover in a future diary entry, anomalies are always in a semi passive state when you encounter them. This means that even though they respond aggressively toward the player, they'll do so automatically, regardless of thought or intent. In Into the Radius 2, we use a more complex and systematic approach to designing the anomalies than before. Before generating ideas for potential anomalies, we first figure out how they're meant to affect the player and what purpose do they serve in the game as a whole, keeping them in mind that there are key differences and similarities with enemies. For every anomaly, we have certain rules. They mustn't be overly complex or large, to keep the game primarily a shooter, after all. They mustn't have a wide area of effect. The majority of threats at a distance should be caused by enemies. They must exist on their own, neither following nor attempting to find the player. These roles are also for the enemies. The main way to interact with them must be done through probes. In regard to everything else, anomalies significantly stand out from one another. Their differences will depend on the situations and conditions in which explorers will encounter an anomaly. In the earliest stages of development, it became clear that the game needs multiple types of anomalies, which differ not only in mechanics and visuals, but also design itself. And every type has a unique aspect to it. In Into the Radius 2, we're working on three primary types of anomalies: global anomalies, cluster anomalies, and moving anomalies. Global anomalies can be seen in wide open ranges of the radius. While heading from one specific location to the next, players usually keep in mind several factors: ammo amount, gear condition, potential enemies, routes to avoid, current goals, and mission objectives. So these anomalies have to able to effectively make explorers aware of their presence. I think they missed a word there, Roots. So these anomalies have to be able to effectively make explorers aware of their presence and punish those overconfident enough to miss or underestimate them. Cluster anomalies are a group of multiple differently sized anomalies. They require a great deal of caution when encountered and contain highly valuable and useful artifacts within. While engaging with clusters, players will be more focused than usual, which is why they're designed as less predictable and more complex than the rest. They require explorers to move especially carefully and punish those who are too hasty or reckless. Moving anomalies are a new entity, and in line with their name, are always in motion, either via specific routes or teleportation. Our internal tests show that the appearance of such anomalies, even in very simplistic forms, can greatly enrich and bring significant variety to the player experience. Anomalies are seen throughout the game in different ways. Players can stumble upon separate isolated ones, fields containing multiple types at once, or the previously mentioned cluster anomalies which differ in size. From a visual standpoint, anomalies in Into the Radius 1 were rather abstract and didn't always leave a lasting impression. In Into the Radius 2, we're trying to make the anomalies feel more materialistic. They are entities of the radius, generated by it based on whatever objects and materials were affected by Pachorsk in 1987. This was a general overview of anomalies in Into the Radius 2. Maybe in the future we'll go in depth into each one's design separately. Let us know if you'd be interested in more specific dev diaries, and we'll see you into the radius. So, Anomalies roots were kind of a big part of the first game, and these, for all intents and purposes, were traps. Um, Kind of a science fiction-y way to get at setting traps on the landscape, and something that you always had to be looking for, always conscious of, if you didn't want to meet an early death. Um, it seems like these anomalies in the sequel are going to be a bit more visible, whereas in um, the earlier game, they were a bit harder to see. It seems like quite a bit of thoughts going into what these things look like, which will probably affect the gameplay a little bit, I would imagine. But at the same time, the kind of visual aesthetic of Into the Radius is one of the things that really makes it stand out. So if we're going to have more of these really science fiction-y visuals going on in the Radius, I think it could add a lot of value outside of whatever impact it has on the gameplay.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to be throwing bullets or whatever those things are every 5 seconds, because that's the reality. You're moving in the first one. You got to throw something, whatever they're called, those things to see if something's
probes.
there, right?
Probes, yeah.
Yeah, probes. I would rather just walk around and do everything else, and maybe you still have. I assume you still have the probes, but maybe you can see them a little bit easier from a distance, so you don't necessarily have to use them. That'd be nice.
You know who loves probes, Roots?
My
A
mom!
little bit too much sometimes, I say. Mickey Bear dropping Paper Beast in the chat, so somebody pick it up.
It's a good one.
That is a good
Don't
one.
miss out on that. Thanks, Mickey. Thank you very much. Anyway, last one. And in this one, we're talking about the enemies. Very interested to see what kind of changes the enemies are going to take, because the enemies in the original were some of the more terrifying enemies I've ever seen in a game that wasn't explicitly labeled as a horror game. Anyway, hello, explorers. And this is a new one, by the way. This one just came out 2 days ago. Enemies are a special part of Into the Radius. We know this has been a much anticipated diary entry, but before we dive into the details, there's a couple things we'd like to point out. One of Into the Radius's key aspects lies in the conflict structure. Into the Radius is a lone journey in a vast and dangerous world, yet there's no one there to help or save you. The explorer is practically always the only person in the Radius. Yes, there are other explorers, but they are extremely rare. The Radius resists invasion into its territory. Anomalies, monsters, and other dangers lurk everywhere. Hence the creation of a secure base for the explorers, and dangerous locations within the Radius and expeditions. Players metaphorically dive into the Radius, but they always return home. This is the relationship between the player and the world around them. They must overcome it. In similar games, conflict often resolves around the relationships between groups of people. The anomalous world around them serves only as a decoration and a background for the player interactions. Hence the structure of the world. The player is always within a dangerous zone, moving between the safe bases of groups, and spending most of their time in the company of people. This mainly deals with the complexity of human relationships. Based on our vision of the Radius, the existence of human enemies, other bases, groups, etc., is most likely impossible. We operate under the idea that encountering other people in the Radius is possible, but extremely rare. And currently, within the scope of the sequel, it is not planned. Finding traces of human presence and their activities, yes, but no encounters, shootouts, trading, or anything of that sort. Co-op is uniquely incorporated into this concept of Into the Radius, but we'll discuss it in one of our upcoming diary entries. Now, let's more specifically talk about the enemies you will encounter. In Into the Radius 1, we were often criticized for having enemies that were simply black blobs, invisible in the darkness. They all looked alike and were fairly simple in terms of behavior and visual design. Back then, it was due to a lack of resources and the inability to do otherwise. However, now all enemies are being meticulously developed, both in terms of mechanics and appearance. In general, the enemies in Into the Radius 2 can be divided into two categories. Mimics. Mimics are humanoid creations of the Radius. They imitate the behavior of military personnel, patrolling areas, taking cover in positions, working as a team, and relaying information to their comrades. Just like in Into the Radius 1, there will be several types of mimics that differ visually in their combat behavior and in the weapons they use. Now, they are not just dark silhouettes, but strange creatures created by the Radius in the image of humans, each with a unique appearance. We strive to make their AI as realistic and believable as possible. Currently, 2 team members dedicate all of their working time to developing it. This is a long and complex process, so work on the AI will continue until full release. Monsters. These are a variety of different creations in the Radius. They don't work as a team or take cover, but each has its own unique behavior. It wouldn't be accurate to say that they don't use the AI being developed for mimics. It is a unified system that functions in multiple ways, separately for mimics and monsters. A good example here would be the monster known as Spawn in Into the Radius 1. It will return in Into the Radius 2 a new form. We have reworked its appearance while preserving its overall behavior. Like the mimics, it can hear and see and react to the player, but within its own simpler limitations. However, we added a unique feature to it. Now, spawns have the ability to set up ambushes, waiting for the explorer in dark corners, thus creating a completely new gameplay experience. Among other changes, it's worth mentioning the ways in which enemies can populate locations. In Into the Radius 1, enemies could guard a point of interest or roam the radius, randomly encountering the explorer. In Into the Radius 2, this will remain the same, and a new option called Patrol will be added. A patrol is a group of mimics or monsters that roam a location along a specific route. There can be several groups like this in one location. In order to increase the replayability of populated areas, the composition of monsters, patrol routes, the number of monsters, and other parameters will change from tide to tide. The gradual increase in difficulty from location to location will be preserved, but the variety will change more significantly, including as the player progresses. We hope that all of this together will allow our players to encounter interesting and diverse challenges more often in their adventures. At the start of early access, we plan to use 2 types of mimics and 1 type of monster, gradually introducing new enemies in the future. Last but certainly not least, we've reached over 100,000 Steam wishlists. Seeing so many people interested in Into the Radius 2 means a lot to us. We hope to live up to your expectations. See you in the Radius. So, first of all, there's just another example. We talk every episode about how important wish lists are to these developers when they're building out a project and trying to get it in the public consciousness. Just one more example of a developer expressing gratitude for people wishlisting their game. And again, we want to support these developers in every way that we can. So shout out to everyone who's already wishlisted the game.
Absolutely. And I was going to mention this earlier, but I forgot. And just, I guess maybe somebody answered it in the chat, but Tiffany was asking how big the dev team was on this. And somebody, I think Bluebell said 2 people. Was that correct?
It's more than 2. It
More than 2.
initially was. It was initially a couple of guys, but I think the team has grown significantly since then. The original was a a game that was eventually picked up by EA and
Mm.
funded by EA. So I imagine they had a sufficient dev team for it, and it seems to be the case here as well.
Absolutely. She was also posing the question of whether this kind of clarity, like there's so much information, right? Whether it could help build expectations to an unrealistic level to possibly create a letdown. Which my response to that was it could absolutely do that if it's not delivered. That's the danger. That's why you see most devs not go into this much detail, because now they're pigeonholing themselves into what they're telling people they're going to do, right? To some extent, they can still change things, but for the most part, they're saying, "Hey, this is what we're going to do." But if your plan is doing exactly that and you are going to deliver, it absolutely is a good thing, right? It'll build the expectations, and when people see it fulfilled, again, it'll make you really, really believe in these devs even more than you did before.
So a couple things with regard to that. So first of all, we often see this in the VR space where hype takes over and creates unrealistic expectations, and then people are more times than not let down when a game comes out, even a good game, because it doesn't meet the expectations that people kind of built up. Generally, though, when we see that type of hype being built, it's because the developers weren't very transparent about what they
Correct.
were building, and people were just kind of speculating. What they're doing here with this kind of transparency is eliminating the need for speculation. They're telling people exactly what they're doing and what their plans are. And at the same time that they're doing that, they're setting proper expectations for their launch into early access, saying, "Hey, these are long-term plans. When you get the early access version, there's going to be 3 guns, there's going to be 2 monsters. Like it's not going to be that great at launch." But they're telling people that right up front. So I think transparency is a great thing when it comes to building hype for games, and I think they're going the right way about it here.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, with that said, I don't know how I feel about what they're saying they're going to do with the enemy design here. Like they say, people criticize them for the black blobs, as they called it, from the first game. I thought those black enemies were terrifying. Like they're all kind of silhouettes, and it always came across as like an interdimensional creature, and you're just kind of seeing the shadow of something that probably looks way more grotesque on another like wavelength, right? I always found that just terrifying. But they're saying that people didn't really like it, and that they're going to have monsters now that look more like monsters, and that could be a good thing, but it might not be. Like I don't need more zombies,
Mm.
right? Like if they're just going to give me humanoid zombie looking figures, like that's in every other game. Like I kind of like the monsters from the first game, and I'm not so sure how happy I am to hear that they're going to be changing it up here.
Yeah, well, they demonize humans so much around this planet. Like, what's more scarier than a humanoid?
Yeah,
It's like
right.
you don't know what the fuck that guy might do. He's gonna be like really fucked up. Who knows what he's into? Monster. They're just a monster. They don't think. So I don't know. I think I can see both sides. I think it's I definitely trust their vision. There's not like for me, I would never like some game. Well, I would never do it anyway. But I'm just not gonna wring my hands over this game and how the enemies. Well, I do think it's interesting to see how what that's gonna mean, right? How will it change it? I think it's a very valid question.
Argosoft says, "Bring back the black blobs." I'm all for it, bro. Where's my petition? I'll sign it. I'll start it.
Is Firewall still on Sony's promo reel for real? Get that shit off there, man. Didn't they go out? Didn't they close their doors?
They did. Yeah, they
Like, I
did. They
mean, at
absolutely
some
did.
point, I think that's my, people talking about the biggest disappointments in games or whatever, gaming, the different games that are disappointment. I just think that overall, in general, the fact that studios all over are just yanking people's games that they paid for and just saying, look, it's just not available anymore is a very scary way to see things going down You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I grew up in a day where I bought my game and could own that thing forever. I could go play a Nintendo game from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, still plays. But these digital things, they just get yanked off, and then all of a sudden you just don't have access anymore. And it's one thing if it's like 10 years, and okay, yeah, nobody's playing it anymore. But some of these games just fucking came out. Then it's like you just feel like an extra slap in the face as a consumer. And what a bummer.
That's that's an antiquated way of thinking, Roots. All games are going to live in the cloud.
Oh, that's right.
You,
Yeah. And you
you
get
will
used
you will own you will
nothing.
own nothing, and you will be happy.
Yeah, you'll be happy. You'll like it because you have no choice.
That's right. We'll be playing games in the cloud, eating cockroaches.
Well, cockroach for cricket farms.
You
That's the
know
thing.
who loves a good cockroach in her mouth?
Yes, she does.
Mom!
Oh, man. I tell her it's like you need to calm down sometimes, but just loves it.
Anyway, that was cool. We now know a lot more about Into the Radius 2. I was hyped for it before. I'm hyped for it now. I do feel like we have a much better understanding now of what the game is going to be eventually and what it's going to be when it hits early access later this year.
Yep. Hey, one thing I
But
do, people were asking, do we think it'll ever come to PlayStation?
that is a
VR2?
great question, which I have posed to these developers on multiple occasions, and they always give me the little grinny face and say that we'd like to bring it to all platforms at some point, but they never will commit. So I would be surprised if it didn't. But really, that depends on all of us. We got to get people in PSVR headsets. We have to make that store a profitable place for developers to bring their games, and then it won't be a problem. All games will be coming to PlayStation at that
Yep,
point.
very true. Maybe Sony PC. Come to Sony PC for the PlayStation VR2.
There you go. Everybody can play it on their PlayStations through Steam one day.
I think that'd be cool.
Yep. So moving along to the next topic, this was an interesting one. As I was looking for things to talk about today, I found a game, Roots, a game that I had never heard of before. Can you believe it?
I cannot believe it.
We'll find a way through the time and space. Anything could happen. Just follow me.
So this, Roots, is Cthulhu, Books of Ancients. This is a flat game that has been in development for over 4 years. Still has yet to release. At one time, this flat game had a demo on Steam that's no longer there. I can tell you that. And I can tell you now that it appears to be an Epic Game Store exclusive because you can't find any trace of it on Steam anymore. It's not there. It's only on Epic Games. Well, that's not entirely true. It is on one other storefront, and that is where I found it at. And that storefront is Viport. Cthulhu Books of Ancients VR is hiding in the Viport catalog with a coming soon tag on it. There has been no announcement of this game supporting VR that I can find anywhere in any sort of media. The only reason we know that this game is coming to VR is because it's listed on Viport as coming soon with a VR stamp on it. For what it's worth, the trailer that we just watched has been around for 4 years. And it's the exact same trailer for the flat game as it is for the VR game. So I don't know exactly what that's going to mean. What I do know is that this game is coming from a studio that has put out quite a few games, both flat and VR. So this is not a first-time VR studio. And what seems to be the case here, and this is speculation on my part, I don't know this, But it seems like this game initially was intended to be a flat game coming to all PC platforms. They decided to do a VR version of the game, and then they appear to have signed an exclusivity deal with Epic Games, which would take their game off the Steam store. So if you're developing a VR game and that's a PC VR game and you can't put it on Steam, where are you going to put it at? Viveport. So I think that's why we're seeing this thing pop up on Viveport and nowhere else, and why we're not hearing much news about the VR version, because it's just something that's going to be on Viveport for a while. For what it's worth, this game looks awesome. Cthulhu Books of Ancients is a first-person horror game in which we take on the role of a detective looking for a missing 6 children. A mysterious note thrown by an unknown informant at the door led him to the library of the University of Miskatonic, where there are clues to solve the puzzle. The main game features a detective case to be solved, the secrets of the Ancient Ones, ancient rituals, summon and recall demons, magic items inspired by the Cthulhu mythology, Miskatonic Library in Arkham, Innsmouth Herald newspaper, Necronomicon, and the books of the Ancient Ones. This game is apparently compatible with Vive, Vive Cosmos, Vive Pro, Oculus Rift, Oculus Rift S, Quest and Link, and Valve Index.
What's the point of listing every headset if you don't have every headset? Like, I didn't hear Quest Pro in there, and I'm looking at it right now. And, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's like you list most of them, but then you leave certain ones out, especially the professional ones.
Well, it only says Quest, so I think that means all Quests.
Oh, I thought I heard Quest 3. Okay.
No, Quest and Link, it says.
Oh, and it only said Vive too, right? Oh no, they broke into
right.
those ones in detail, but it is Vive port, so that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, I don't have a whole lot to say about this other than just putting it on people's radar, because it looks like it's a high quality game. It has been in development for years from an experienced studio, and I hope it does come out soon. Like, I hope it doesn't take them another 4 years to get it done, because it looks cool. Yeah. And you know, I almost, Roots, you know why I stumbled upon this game? Because when I was struggling for topics to talk about today, I thought we might do the best of Viveport.
I'll tell you what, it's been a long time. I'd love to do a best of Viveport.
Yep.
I think my sarcasm has grown since a couple years ago, or whenever the last one we did. So I think it could be fun. I have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, best of Viveport. We could do best of Steam. There's a lot of garbage on Steam these days. So yeah. We could do that again. Anyway, I think that this game looks cool. I hope it's as good as it looks. I do enjoy a good horror game in VR. Awesome Tatum says, Cthulhu in VR, you got my attention. Well, there you go. You should try to play, what was that game we played, Roots? The Shore VR. I think you might like that one. It was a good Lovecraftian horror game that I think Cthulhu makes an appearance in that one as well. Anyways, as we move on, we have one more topic in the headlines section, and this one I'm kind of looking forward to. This one we're going to call an exclusive. This is a client of mine at Impact Reality. We have an announcement going out tomorrow to kind of introduce the world to this game, and I got permission today to go ahead and share it with our viewers, since we need things to talk about. The press release goes out for this one tomorrow. It's a press release that I wrote, so we're going to take a look at that. But before we do, let's take a look at the trailer. Late to the party, unhinged meme fest Leeroy comes to Steam VR and MetaQuest later this year. Global Seer Initiative, GSI, Guildford, UK's newest collective of semi talented artists and gaming industry malcontents, is somewhat obligated to announce the upcoming release of its debut VR party game, Leeroy. Scheduled for launch later in 2024 on MetaQuest and Steam, Leeroy aims to win over the dozens of active VR gamers out there with a potent blend of comical internet memes, pop culture references, and gaming lore. So VR isn't dead. Given the onset of the so-called spatial computing era, one might be led to believe that VR gaming's best days have come and gone. In a last-ditch effort to salvage what's left, GSI is throwing everything but the kitchen sink into Leeroy. We're saving that for a potential kitchen sink DLC. This game is a love letter to the dozens of VR gamers who still believe in the dream, packed with enough memes to make 2010 jealous and gameplay that's as unpredictable as the next pandemic. Leeroy brings the heat with a one-of-a-kind multiplayer experience that combines intuitive gameplay with a vast collection of microgames inspired by trendy internet culture. Drawing inspiration from a variety of internet memes, pop culture references, and gaming nostalgia, Leeroy aims to deliver non-stop laughs and entertainment for parties, gatherings, or solo play. From directing short films starring squirrels to solving puzzles with confused scientists, Leeroy never fails to capitalize on the same brand of comedic gold that some guy once shared on the internet. It's developed by industry veterans. Behind this madness is a team of veterans who have somehow convinced themselves that their extensive background at places like Zynga, Google, and Lionhead Studios has prepared them for this moment. GSI's founders, leveraging their accumulated wisdom and mild desperation, are ready to prove that there's still life in VR gaming, or at the very least, a laugh or two. Join us on this possibly misguided adventure as we aim to bring a bit more laughter to the world of VR gaming. Follow us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes looks, and exclusive invites to our beta test, a chance to witness history, or at least a very entertaining attempt at it. Remember, in a world where VR gaming's pulse might be fading, Leeroy could be the adrenaline shot that we've all been waiting for. Or maybe it's just a thinly veiled attempt to make our beloved metaverse a bit more like the traditional internet. Either way, it's going to be hilarious. Wishlist Leeroy today on Steam VR and MetaQuest. So, Roots, this is a WarioWare style of minigame collection, and it's mostly intended to make people laugh. It's their take on various memes, trends, gaming culture, pop culture. It's all meant to be a big joke that's a bit fun to play. And we're talking about dozens and dozens and dozens of these things, with dozens more planned in the future. These guys have been great to work with in the short amount of time that I've been working with them. And what has me so excited about promoting this game, let alone playing it, is these guys aren't afraid to take a risk to get a laugh. So they're not going to be tiptoeing on eggshells, trying not to offend people, but rather they seem like the type of people who are going to go for it to successfully land the joke, and that is my sort of dudes. So shout out to GSI for allowing us to reveal Leeroy here on our show today.
Yeah, absolutely. Comedy is not politically correct. It can't be. And as soon as it starts to happen, then it stops being funny. So, yeah, I know people are, it looks funny to me. A lot of people in the chat are commenting on the fact that it looked like a Will Smith smacking Chris Rock
Yeah, yeah.
in VR. And, like, that's what we want to see is, like, some of the most popular, funny, crazy memes replayed, or however this ends up being. I don't know exactly how the the gameplay of this. If you're actually get to be Will Smith and go smack Chris Rock, or maybe as Chris Rock, you get to stop it and fight back. I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows? That's the thing. I think it's cool and unique and super cool. And I was going to say this, but well written. I thought it was very good. So.
Yeah, I was surprised. So, just a little insider info here. When I wrote this press release, I wrote two of them, right? I wrote like a traditional one that's like a normal VR press release announcing a game. And then I wrote this one, which has some jokes in there. It makes a lot of jokes about VR dying, makes a lot of self-deprecating humor for the studio. And to their credit, they said, let's go with this one. So they don't care to even make fun of themselves a little bit, which I found refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so and Bluebell says I'm not so sure about this, and this is the thing: memes aren't for everybody, and certain memes aren't going to resonate, and certain game types aren't going to resonate with other people. And so, yeah, we'll see how it goes, and just like we were saying earlier, it's not for everybody. So I completely
It's not. Yeah, it's
get
not going to
that.
be for everybody. Bluebell's not sure about it, but Duggars has already wishlisted. And Technoglitch says that he's going to get it. So yeah, for those of us who like a good laugh, I feel like this could be a good one. You know, it's been a while since we had a good like Accounting Plus style just joke fest, right?
Yeah.
And I haven't played this yet, but I'm hopeful that we could get that sort of experience out of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kramer says dozens of VR players. Yeah, I know. I went back to that one twice, hoping that people would catch it. Yeah, there's dozens of us left, Roots. Dozens and dozens.
Dozens. Yeah, there's a couple dozen here right now.
Radio Runt says hard pass for him. Well, of course. It's no Swarm 2, Radio Runt.
This is the thing, dude. Yeah, well, it could be good. Could be really good. Could be, I mean, for me, if as long as it's funny, that's the main thing. And it looks funny.
Yeah, right. Anyway, that is our the headlines for the week. Again, which consisted of no headlines, but we went and found our own. So hopefully everyone enjoyed that as much as I do. But we are now going to move on to this week's reminders, and I'm going to start with a different reminder. Meta will delete Oculus accounts soon. So what do you need to do to save your VR apps? Well, it's really quite simple. Create a Meta account. If you have an Oculus PC account and you have been dragging your feet with creating a Meta account because you just don't want to engage with it, you're about to lose your library, friends.
You're about to lose your library. What are you guys doing?
Yeah. So it takes 5 minutes. Take your email over there and give it to them, for God's sake. They already have it anyway. And save your library before it's too late.
Yeah, that's crazy. You know what's funny is I could have sworn, I'm actually looking it up, and then things changed. I could have sworn them saying you don't have to. Don't worry, you don't have to get a Meta account. You can keep your Oculus account the way you have it as is. We're not forcing you to get a Meta account. Guess what? You're getting a Meta account or you're losing your game, bitch.
That's right.
And I think it was just like, I think it was like a year, a little over a year. But I mean, that's just the way things. And I'm not advocating that this is unrealistic. It is what it is. It's their store, right? I just want to know why, like, I can't play offline to where when their servers go down, my headset's a brick. Can you imagine a PlayStation being that way? PlayStation 5? We put up with certain things with certain companies and certain technology, and we say, well, that's just the way it is. Well, why? You know, why is my battery draining as I use my PC VR? Like, I have all these questions, and Zuck, I want to know. I don't know if I'll ever find out, but I want to know.
Yeah, we never will find out.
Never.
It's because they said so, bro.
That's right. Well, it's the way the world is. You know, life's not fair is what my mom told me. So
this is true. And on that note, let's take a look at what's out this week as we zoom over to the XR Update release calendar. And we got some stuff out this week, Roots. It's not quite as jam packed as last week, but there's some things coming out. Notably, Humanity, out of nowhere, is coming to MetaQuest. Not my favorite game, but it wasn't bad. It was just like an average lemming style game. And people who are into that, which apparently there's quite a few people who are into it, are now going to get a chance to play it on Quest.
Mash and
Um,
Astro Chef. Oh my God, is Mash going to play it? I know he loves cooking games.
For sure, he's going to go after that Astro Chef. That's like his favorite, right?
I bet. I bet.
And then Monkey Do seeks to capitalize on the Gorilla Tag madness that has taken over the Quest library when it comes to Quest this week. But with that said, there are a few other titles that catch my attention a bit more.
PlayStation.
Little Cities Bigger coming to PSVR 2 this week. Uniting over a year of delightful update content, including the wintry wonders of the Snowy Islands DLC, PSVR 2 players are getting their paws on cozy creativity in its ultimate form. Plus, we've harnessed the unique power of PSVR 2 to really ramp up the relaxation with enhanced frame rate, charming visuals in 4K glory, enhanced immersion with haptic feedback, and even eye tracking shenanigans. So here we go, Roots. PSVR 2 doing what it does to these types of ports and taking what already was the best city builder in VR and making it even better with new features.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this looks really amazing. I think they, like you said, they've made a great game even better. So super
Yeah,
cool.
a great way to relax. You know, one of the things that we really appreciated about the first one was the way the UI worked, or with the bubbles that you pop to go through the menus. Imagine what that's going to be like now that you have these new controllers that have the enhanced haptics and stuff in it. It should be even more satisfying than it was before.
Yeah. Yeah, you know who else loves it when it's more satisfying than it was before?
My
And Awesome
mom!
Tatum says, you know who else likes it when it's bigger, which kind of refers back to the
My mom!
same thing.
Yeah, that's she does.
Yeah, she does. You know, I'll tell you what. Let's see. Tech says it needs a nuke button. I think it's cool that they've got different, natural disasters. I
Yep.
think they just should have like a fentanyl crisis. Homeless people, the trash all over the street. Then you'd feel like you were really in San Francisco
You
recreation.
can literally defund the police, Roots.
Oh God, how crazy would that be? That's like that. I guess that would be amazing.
Anyway, it's your world, it's your city. It's much more of a game now than it was, having received multiple DLCs since we last played it. There's an island creator now where you can just literally create your own island, and all of these little people in the streets now that weren't there before. natural disasters, just so much more here than when we covered the game on launch. So, yeah, I think this is a solid title coming to PSVR 2 for those of you who like to go into VR to relax. I guess I should add that in here. It's not a very challenging game. It's
Doesn't need to
just
be. And,
it's an
there's
activity.
other versions that are challenging. The thing about this is like, how many things do we have, games, especially like this, where we're like, I just want to like being able to watch it, and like that's the thing that I saw. You saw the stadium, and like just watching all these things going on in this little world that you created, and you're the mayor, and like Bluebell says, don't piss off the people. I think it's really cool, and it's something that actually works better in VR than flat. It could ever work.
Yeah,
And
right.
it's technicality there. It's being too technical can be a detriment in VR, and so I think it's like the perfect mix.
Yeah, agreed. As we move along, here's another game that I just discovered today, Roots, and very, very indie. I'll say that up front, but I'm a bit intrigued here with what we've got going on. Endless Wonder VR is a colorful VR platformer in which you will need to use unique sticks with unique abilities that can be combined in any way to complete a campaign consisting of various levels with a unique stylized environment, enemies, and obstacles. Uh, so, Roots, questionable trailer aside, with its shaky footage and its bad music, um, this appears to be a very unique platformer, providing a wide variety of enemies, a wide variety of environments, and most importantly, a wide variety and variance in gameplay. It seems like there's a whole lot of game going on here. And again, as a platformer in a genre that's been woefully underserviced in historically in VR.
I think it looks cool. It looks like it's got a lot of things that could be really good. Like especially I like platformers where they've got like mine levels, and or I get to ride a roller coaster or something of that nature. Um, so yeah, it looks like it could be really good.
Yeah, looks like a journey, right? Like an adventure. And at the same time, as you can see here, like classic platforming, uh timing based jumps and enemies that follow a pattern, just like stuff that you would see in a classic 2D platformer, but now you're in first person VR, um giving it all that much needed immersion. um I'm intrigued. Obviously, it's very indie, right? You can tell that from the trailer. Um, but if they nail the gameplay here, the environments and enemies look like it could provide some endless wonder in
Mm.
VR.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Mepper's got the best question. It says Gentleman Studio is not gentleman. Does that mean a single developer did it? Oh yeah, it's
Maybe
absolutely confirmed here. No, I don't know. Could be. It could be that
could be.
Gentleman Studio is already taken and they wanted something similar. Maybe the head developer is a gentleman. Who knows?
It could be that this studio is overseas and English is their second language.
That's probably more likely. I would say that's 100% more likely.
Yeah.
But, you know, like as much as I laugh, let me try to translate something into Chinese or something. You know what I mean? I bet that would be a laugh. People are like, what the hell is this? So,
Speaking of laughs in VR, our final highlighted release this week seems like it's going to be responsible for quite a few laughs coming up in the next few days. Paint the Town Red VR. The chaotic first person melee combat game finally comes to VR in Paint the Town Red VR. With a host of new features designed to take full advantage of VR, the voxel based brawler is better than ever and aims to be the most fun you can have in a headset. Roots gratuitous violence, a popular, apparently traditional game coming to VR. I think as long as this thing is priced right, that a lot of people are going to have a lot of fun with this.
yeah, absolutely. It looks crazy, looks ridiculous. It's exactly what I would love. So it says this is the DLC to the original game. Or is that, am I reading that wrong or?
I didn't. Does it say
Well,
DLC?
well, it
I
says
don't know.
DLC Paint the Town Red, at least in this thumbnail right here in the Steam thing. But then it says Paint the Town Red VR. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like a downloadable content. So, like, this is a game that people already own, and I guess could be free maybe for people that own it. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not aware. I know it's coming to PlayStation VR and Quest
Oh,
as well as Steam. So it is a standalone VR title, but maybe there is some type of a deal if you already own the thing on flat.
yeah.
I'm not sure.
Looks cool. It looks like it's crazy. It looks funny. I know some people were saying that they would they're looking forward to playing it, but getting drunk first. I'll Colorado
Right.
time it for myself. Other people saying that they're sick of all the voxel stuff in VR. I to be honest, if they didn't say voxel in there, I don't know. Isn't voxel just a way of the way that they use like everything comes together? It's less intensive graphically, right, or something? Or
Yeah, it's this block. It's this Minecraft art, and
oh,
I'm
okay,
sick
I
of it.
gotcha.
I'm,
Yeah, I
I'm
mean, I
sick of
guess
it too, but it kind of fits here, right? I mean, you're going ham on these things, and there's blood everywhere. Like if it was super realistic, they probably couldn't get it on the store. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would rather have like imagine a scenario where it looks really more realistic, but you go in and it's hokey and looks stupid and like a lot of games do, and there's not much content or worth playing. I would rather have it look like this and the actual gameplay and content be really fun to play
Right.
than just about anything. Like that's the thing I keep going back to. Is like I just want to have fun. When I play games, I want to have fun. Like even if it's a like a very serious type of game, I'm doing it to relax and have fun. And I'm just so tired of games that you get in there and outside of being in the world, it's like, well, why am I here? It's very mediocre. That it's not fun, but this looks fun. So three
Spry
days. You
Guy
don't have to
says
wait 3 days.
Spry Guy says it looks like it is DLC, and Steam says it requires the original game,
Yeah,
which
because
is
if you
interesting.
look at like just the page I got here in the it says paint the town red, downloadable content, and then it's got the DLC paint the town red. So that VR. So that's pretty cool, you know. I mean, for people like us, we're you know, obviously it's going to other content that doesn't have the base game because it's VR only. That kind of says something about it in and of itself. And the fact that people that already own this game and love it are going to see this new DLC is out there and they're like, "Oh my God, I can play this in VR." Maybe it
Yeah,
brings a couple people in there. So it's kind of what we want, right? So
yeah, for sure. Anyway, it looks like a good palate cleanser. You need to blow off some steam. You got 20 minutes. Jump in this thing, crack some skulls, go on about your day.
yeah, cracking skulls, getting painting the town red everywhere. You know, I before I saw the trailer and I just saw the name, I was like, I don't know what the hell this is. But then, of course, once I saw the premise and there was blood everywhere, and it's very
Yeah.
violent in a day where everyone takes everything so seriously. Just let me go in and start smacking people around, smashing some heads. It's a game, and yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah. All right. So that's what's out this week. Again, not maybe the 6 or 7 that we had out last week, but some interesting nuggets in there. But as we move along, let's take a look at some viewer comments. Garfield, the lasagna loving game cat, says, "Thanks for being the voice of reason regarding the state of the video game industry as a whole." So I think Garfield is putting forth some appreciation for the fact that we're not sitting here trying to paint PSVR 2 as something that's uniquely fucked versus the rest of the industry that's doing just fine. Um, the entire industry is restructuring right now, and if you want to talk about layoffs, I mean, who's laid off as many people as Meta? I mean, Meta laid off 10 times or more the people that Sony has laid off, but people aren't sitting around here talking about how Quest is dead. For some reason, this is a narrative that only gets reserved for PlayStation VR.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And you know, it's
Yeah.
just in general the video there you see a shift in the video gaming industry as a whole. Flat
Yeah.
VR, everything.
Yep.
Everything we were saying earlier still holds true. It's only
Yeah.
been a
It
couple
is.
hours. So,
It is a time of change for sure.
it's good. It
The
needs
gaming
it. It
industry.
needs it's a time of a change that's it's needed for a while. And
Yep.
VR is only getting better and that's cool.
Yep. Escape Portal says best show on YouTube. It's good to hear someone else say it for a change, right? You Roots.
Yeah, you start to say it. You start to say you say it yourself too many times. You start to feel like, okay, maybe I'm starting to be a little prideful. That's not cool. And this is coming from somebody who has an amazing channel on YouTube himself. So if you haven't
Word.
checked out Escape Portal, check him out. It's definitely
100%.
got really good VR content.
Good takes. He's got good takes on the industry. We'll say
Correct.
that.
Yep. Very well produced too.
J Devil says they cannot put the same chip that's in a Quest 3. So we're talking here. This is in response to our discussion about a potential Quest Pro 2. J Devil says they can't put the same chip that's in a Quest 3. For the Pro device, it needs to be substantially better, like a laptop capable chip like the Apple Vision Pro. The whole reason nobody bought a Quest Pro is because it had the same chip as a Quest 2.
Mm.
There was no graphical benefit for the upgrade. And I think that's a fair point. And we were kind of talking about the failure of Quest Pro as a $1,500 premium product and why people didn't necessarily buy into it. And I think that's a valid point that it wasn't a real upgrade on the standalone side of things.
And it wasn't only, it's not only about graphical, because Quest Pro was sold at kind of like the Apple Vision Pro is being sold now, even though you still had your gaming. It was sold like, because that's what Todd was using it for, to be able to work in your environment, right, and have multiple screens. But sadly, it's Bradley said that even though it's got more VRAM, it's just not like, it's too sluggish, right, to be able to use it for everyday use where you would use it to work in and stuff. Even with a subpar pass through, you need to have a laptop chip in there. You need something that's going to be very responsive, and you can open 5 million fucking tabs and your thing still runs perfect. So like, yeah, I think that it needs. I agree with that comment 100%.
Yeah, if they want to compete with the Apple Vision Pro, they've got to compete with the Apple Vision Pro. And that means giving us something that's better than, substantially better than the headset that's less than $1,000 cheaper, or more than $1,000 cheaper, I should say.
Question: do you think it would be? Is it possible that it would be NVIDIA, right? Because NVIDIA is going to start putting out CPUs, and their CPUs are more along the line with Macintosh, with Mac for the ARM chips versus the 86 core or times 86 or however you say that shit. It's a completely different thing, and everything they say that's the future, right? So how cool would that be if that was like the first NVIDIA CPU in that chip or in that headset?
Very well could be. Very well could be what powers a potential next Valve headset as well. I mean, Brad talks about how there's supposed to be a regular Qualcomm chip and an ARM chip in it as well.
Oh God, how cool!
Yeah,
and the future is good, right?
that's right. Mike Toulon says Moon Rocks and Swarm 2 sounds fun.
That does sound fun,
doesn't it? Though
it does sound fun.
Disco Beaver says I'd like to see Swarm come to PSVR 2. Wouldn't we all? We've been screaming this for years. But Island Kara says, consider it a gift not putting Swarm on PSVR.
I love Island Kara.
Yeah.
I always give shit saying like they really love this game, and they really don't. But that's the beauty of it. Like Radio Runt says, Swarm 2 Game of the Year. I say really good game. I don't think it's Game of the Year because I can only imagine what's going to come out. But it's really good. But everybody's got different tastes,
Main Fan says Swarm 2 was stuttery for me on Quest 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't experience that once at all. It was just smooth for me. Now, maybe Main Fan made it deeper into the game than I did. Roots, did you experience any kind of stuttering when you were playing that?
No, but see this is one of the things that why like when my friend Josh was asking whether he should get a Quest 3 or Quest Pro, I told him for his case, Quest Pro. Of course, he does a lot of VR chat with the eye tracking and other things. It makes more sense. But you also have more VRAM, or I guess not VRAM, but more RAM in general. So you possibility to have less stuttering. And people forget, everybody wants to have these graphical upgrades. This, everything's negated. You got a more powerful chip, but you also are pushing more through that higher res screen. And then you have on top of that, they'll have like a special edition for Swarm. It's a Quest 3 thing, and it sounds like a good thing. I got this special upgraded graphics for Quest 3. You Quest Pro, you're slumming it. You can't play it. Well, guess what? I don't have any, very, very little chance, especially if they add that shit, of having any lag or any weird stuttering. Like, you know what I mean? I've got less resolution than what they're planning on pushing for a good portion of people. And so it's going to run, it should theoretically, just like we always go back to a Rift S, say, back in the day to run a mod. It's gonna take less resources to do it, right? So
Right. Yeah. So that's weird. And Ben, again, maybe you're deeper into the game than I am, but I haven't experienced any kind of stuttering in it. It just ran smooth for me.
you haven't beat the boss?
I have not beat the boss.
You know, Radio Run was he saying he beat the boss?
This
He
man
just beat the
legitimately
boss.
thinks that he is better than us.
Not better than this.
Not at all. Old Darth says maybe you could live stream Saturday for patrons only and then release it to the public midweek. So this was in response to what we said on Friday, that Fridays are getting more difficult for us, that Saturday would be much easier, but we don't want to do 2 live streams 2 days in a row because people end up not watching the first one and only watching the second one. This is a potential solution to that, which on the surface, my initial reaction is, well, I don't want to do a live stream and have just a handful of people in the chat. But on the other hand, I mean, we would be able to kind of put it out on a Wednesday for everyone else. So
Double dip, right?
I don't
you get
plan
the
on
live chat for that day.
right. So I don't plan on moving away and starting on Saturdays now. Like I want to stick with Friday and see how that goes. But if one day Friday becomes just not an option anymore, maybe we look at doing something like that and letting the patrons have first look, and then letting everyone else have it a few days later.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's funny that you say the way that you like your second thought. Mine was the complete flip. I thought, oh, well, that sounds like a really good idea, really good idea. And then it came to me. I'm like, oh shit, there's only going to be a handful of people in the chat.
Right.
But if either way, I think that presents a really good opportunity in general. Just when we have time, like, wouldn't that be a great thing to be able to like a live stream gaming or whatever it is, of like me, you, and Eric, or just me and you or something. I feel like it would be great to give back to the patrons a little bit more in general. And so
Yeah.
like we do a live stream gaming just for them, where we play a game and then we do exactly what like they suggested. We release the video half a week later to everybody, and it gives those patrons something special to look forward to, and we get to hang out with them, and which we don't do that much. It'd be
Right.
cool.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we definitely owe Patreon some exclusive content. It's been a while now, and they're due an exclusive video. With that said, we've been gone altogether for a few months. It's not like we've been over here doing free content and not taking care of the patrons. We just haven't been doing videos, period.
true.
But now that we're back, I think it's time for me to capture some gameplay and share with our patrons, because they've been so generous, and most of them have hung around through the slow times and continue to support even.
I thought you were going to say
Go ahead.
make an intro for Strangers in the Night. I hear MASH in the back of my head saying something. So MASH, you owe me one. I brought that up for you.
Yeah. One of these days, Roots. One of these days.
Yeah, not like you're not doing anything, right? You're just sitting around.
Right. We move on to our next reminder. It is that time once again, folks, where we ask all of you to join us in real time as we support the developers out there by wishlisting a game. And we had quite a few interesting ones that we talked about today. Endless Wonder VR. I'm sure they would appreciate a wish list. Black Trail getting ready to go live. Wish lists are probably pretty big for them right now. Cthulhu, Books of Ancients VR. I don't know how many people are maintaining their Viveport wish list out there, but you might want to go quick on that one. I am going to support my good friends and colleagues with Leeroy. And I'm going to go right now and wishlist Leeroy on Steam, because these guys are awesome and I want to support them.
Yeah, I agree. And because it looks cool. It looks fun.
Yeah, it does look fun. Looks hilarious, actually. Anyways, you all be sure to let us know in the comments who you wish listed, and a big thank you out there to everyone who actually participates and takes the time to go click on one of these awesome games that we talked about today.
Paint the town red, Brandon says. Will
Mhm.
Smith,
Tatum,
or as AKA Will Smith, Chris Rock slap.
Tatum says wish listed Into the Radius 2. That's a good one too.
Yeah, there's several games on here
Uh,
that I would wish list for sure, but I'm with you. Leeroy is the one I'm gonna hit.
Technoglitch agrees. So for what it's worth.
Leeroy Jenkins.
Leeroy. What's up? And that brings us to our final reminder this week and every week, and that is how you can support us, our channel, and our community. Of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Nobody's subscribing anymore. The number is stagnant. People are unsubscribing, Roots. Like, I don't know what to think about it. But if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. It helps our channel out quite a bit with the evil YouTube algorithm. And better yet, while you're at it, ring the bell so that you will sometimes be notified by YouTube. Not always, but sometimes they'll notify you when we go live. And that way you can be here when we kick it off. And whether we're talking about news or whether we're talking about games, you won't miss a minute.
Like somebody earlier did. They said, "Oh, I didn't know you guys went live the other night," and they missed it.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
So.
Of course, if you're already subscribed and you want to do a little something extra, you can support us on Patreon. $3 per month, that's all we ask, and you get access to our weekly show notes. You get access to insider updates. You get access to the occasional bit of exclusive content. You get your name on the ticker at the end of the show, and you get our eternal gratitude for allowing us to be able to do things that we otherwise would not be able to do. This week, I'd like to shout out the newest patron for Virtual Strangers Patreon, Duggars K, which came in with a timely membership as we had just lost 2 patrons this week.
Oh, wow.
So Duggars K helping to make up for some. Isn't it ironic, Roots, that we're down 2 subscribers from last week and we're down 2 patrons from last week?
I wonder if
bit
it's the
weird,
same
huh?
people.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so because I've seen some of these people in the chat.
Okay,
So I think
then
they're still here.
they're like, I'm unsubscribing. Well, you know what? It's a fickle world. I for one refuse to change myself for anything. I know you're pretty much the same
Yep.
way. So like,
Yep.
if something I say offends people, then I and you leave, then that's the way it is. I'm not gonna say be rude about it. Yeah, you're gonna. Everybody, people. Don't watch the same people I used to stream Twitch a few years ago. It doesn't mean I don't like them. It's just people
Right.
change different things. People, so we respect you.
And look, we joke about these things, but I get it, man. The things are becoming more and more expensive. People really got to watch how they spend their money, and we understand it when people leave the Patreon. We appreciate the fact that people ever gave us anything for doing this. So, for what it's worth, we don't hold it against people when they have to end their memberships. We certainly understand it. That is why the Virtual Strangers Discord is here, 100% free, and the best way to access us. Like, we're in there 24/7, 365, always reading, watching, lurking, and talking about all sorts of things, not just VR. It's a family atmosphere, and it's 100% free. There's an invitation down in the description below, and that's the best way to be close to us, to interact with us, even more so than joining the Patreon. We're in the Discord all the time, so come in, say hello. You'll be greeted at the door, I assure you.
Yeah, just wipe your feet. Wes left the light on. It's not going to stay on forever. Power's getting expensive. So
Vern Rock says, "Is Joe Biden dead?"
Well,
Not that I know of, bro.
Man.
Yeah, I
I
have
mean,
not
kinda, I
heard that.
guess.
I think I would have heard that, but if he is, I say rest in peace to his family, and I have nothing negative to say about anybody, and hopefully he's not dead because
Yeah,
life is precious, and we only have
that
a
is
short
true.
time.
Life is precious. Who was it that said that, Roots? I think it was Negan. People
Oh,
are a resource.
yeah, well, Negan, yeah, that's true.
No, it was
Probably,
Morgan. Morgan said life is precious. Negan said people are a resource, which I guess is just another way of saying that life is precious.
I think it's both true, right? I could see Negan saying that right before he squashed Glenn's head.
Right.
Spoiler alert if
Right.
you haven't seen it. By the way.
Spoiler alert, right?
Yeah.
VR Spry Guy says Weekend at Bernie's.
Oh man, that's such a good movie, man.
It's
you know,
great.
it's yeah, I agree.
And with that said, folks, we'd like to thank you once again for watching. For Roots, I'm Wes. We'll see you Friday. Well, maybe tomorrow. We may see them tomorrow, right, Roots? Like tomorrow is Monday, so
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm assuming we
that's good.
will. I mean, we've been very
Yeah,
regular with that, right? So
yeah, like Metamucil, bro.
even better, even more regular.
Anyway, thanks for tuning in, folks. We'll see you probably tomorrow. Bye.
Take it easy.